All right. And we are live. And Travis is laughing. Welcome to the last word. Fresh from that Friday night campfire, LordCognito and Ebontis. Man, what's going on? It's just a regular day, right? Nothing special going on. Right?
Yeah, it's just pretty chill. No news yesterday. No company, change of... So much happened yesterday. We have a lot to talk about. It's kind of insane. But we have an amazing guest joining us, royalty of the gaming world. So we've got to introduce him properly. So tossing it right back. Today, it's yours, sir.
Let's go, man. Welcome to The Last Word, episode number 124. It's another glorious Friday. We're back in front of the campfire for some more looter-shooter discussion. I'm extremely excited about our special guest, so we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce a true lord who is not only legally befitting of the title, but is also an absolute connoisseur when it comes to the world of Destiny. Whether it be his passion for the grimoire or insightful hot takes, all done with McClunky flair. Introducing the reviewer / online personality for IGN and a panelist of Destiny's Fireteam Chat. The Lord of Suits and Neckties, unapologetic Titan main, whose photo image has finally blessed the FTC banner. Live from San Francisco and kind enough to make his debut at the campfire of The Last Word. My man, Lord TieGuyTravis. How we doing, sir?
McClunky, my friends. May I say, that is the greatest intro I have ever or probably will ever receive. So thank you very much for that.
Hey, come on. You got to shoot for the stars, right? That's just where you begin.
I feel like a star. You've really welcomed me here at this campfire, so thank you.
Salute, man. Absolute pleasure to have you at The Last Word, man. Big fan. Love the energy you bring to IGN and Fireteam Chat. Obviously, we had a chance to podcast together on Fireteam Chat, which was awesome. And I had to throw the banner reference. He was like, you had to hear. He was like, when am I going to get my picture on the thing?
I've listened to like literally every episode of Fireteam Chat. So it was that running joke recently, and you finally were there. It's like, he has made it. He has ascended.
He's ascended. But shout out to our boy CJ Gibson, because CJ put out a funny tweet. He's like, well, at least, because they have a graphic when CJ was on, and the Fireteam Chat logo covers his face diagonally.
Yes.
So he's like, at least that didn't happen to you. So shout out to Travis. Your face is actually visible on the banner.
The graphics were adjusted, and all of a sudden, we've got space for the new guys. CJ's over there like just covered. Just got egg on his face.
There's actually a story behind that, which is that it absolutely was intentional. Destin had been joking about they were going to change the banner for years. CJ was on 100 episodes, and he was like, how am I not on the banner yet? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I've been on the show. Like, people seem to like me. My opinions. Like, put me on the banner. He's like, put me on the banner. And so Destin was like, all right, CJ, we're going to take your headshots. We're going to put you on the banner. And so CJ goes through the whole process of getting his headshots taken. He dresses up, gets his hair cut. And then the week that he gets put on the banner, they put the logo right over his face.
Oh my God. That's
Shout out to
amazing.
Destin for being messy and petty. Salute.
Oh, it was great, dude. And then for the last week, anytime I saw him, I would just crack up around the office, just absolutely laugh at that. Oh my God, it was so ridiculous.
Man. Absolute classic, man. But otherwise, what's been going on, man?
Just trying to grind out that Festival of the Lost. I'm late to the game. I just got done reviewing Genshin Impact for IGN. I had to play that game
suck the life out of you.
Yeah, I put over 150 hours into that game in 2 weeks. So I absolutely just was sucked into that, and time to get the review out. So yeah, now I'm back in Destiny and getting ready for my next IGN review, which is Destiny 2 Beyond Light. For the Xbox Series X and PC is what I'm going to be playing.
We got that early preview, so what information can you tell us, or what's the early build? What's it looking like? Yeah,
let's break NDA right now. Come on.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you everything I know, which is that
you get it the same day we do, right?
Pre-order Destiny 2 Beyond Light.
With that marketing disclaimer. The boy is well trained.
Get your statues, and your pre-order weapons and catalyst, please.
No doubt.
There you go. And so that's going to be really exciting, as you guys know. And see you online if you're on PC or Xbox.
Absolutely.
Very much. I've dragged this man to PC, so yeah, we're there.
I'm forced
I know,
here
and he
for
was
another
very
month.
reluctant.
I know.
We talked about this on Fireteam Chat.
Yeah, I was like, I know. I was like, it's where to play. And even now, he's like, I gotta be on PC for even a little bit longer. I was like, yeah, because it's such a hard place to be.
They won't let me escape.
It is, because Crucible is unplayable. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
PC's garbage. I'm sorry.
Love this, man.
It's
I
just
love
not
it,
good.
You know what? For that statement, every week you're allowed to come back. Cameo.
There we go.
That was classic right there. Thank you for the PvP guys. Oh, it's brutal. It's
like
brutal.
here, I respect PC as a platform for people who really have the energy for it. It sure pays dividends and that sort of thing, but it's just toxic, man. Crucible as a Crucible main, PC is just unpalatable. You can't really play it on it. So
it's just a little spooky, especially with we're playing Gambit, people cheating. I'm like, oh, it's Gambit.
I saw that. I was like, first of all, who plays Gambit?
Yeah.
First of all, but
voluntarily enough
Gambit?
to cheat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. So
man, we got a lot of history with Travis here. So let's start with the questions, man. What you got for me?
I might steal one from you, but I want this story. You may already have it. I don't know. I've got to know McClunky.
Oh, I know.
McClunky.
I think I know this.
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay, so there's kind of like a spectrum of knowledge when it comes to McClunky, and it is based on how well you are familiar with Star Wars. So
yeah, I saw the tweet.
Do you know where McClunky's from in general?
I don't.
No. All right.
The phrase.
And our viewers may not either, so feel free to fill us in.
Yeah, please, because I had to research it.
As you know, George Lucas has sort of been obsessed with changing the original trilogy of Star Wars movies since he released them. And there's some pettiness involved. Originally, he changed it because his ex-wife did the editing on the original Star Wars movie. And so he re-edited it so that he could avoid giving her royalties when they got a divorce. So that's why, it's pretty cold. But anyway, so that's like a little bit of Star Wars trivia for you. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Exactly.
Right off. Yo, shout out for the pettiness. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So that's sort of how it started. And then, he invented, Lucasfilm sort of pioneered 3D animation. They created the technology that would eventually become Pixar. They were the first ones to have the 3D rendered, stuff in the prequel trilogy. And he put them originally into the original trilogy after, in the VHS special edition remake, which a lot of people hated. And so ever since then, he's just sort of unapologetically changed the Star Wars original trilogy. And we thought it was over because 5 years ago, he sold the rights to Star Wars to Disney. And we were like, all right, well, he's not allowed to just I change things whenever I want to, he like one of the things he just decided was there had been a question for years of what is Obi-Wan Kenobi's home planet? And somebody asked him, it was Jon Stewart was interviewing him at Star Wars Celebration. Jon Stewart is a huge Star Wars fan. And he said, hey, what's Obi-Wan's home planet? And George Lucas, just because he was annoyed at continuing to hear the question, he said he's from the Stewjon system. And then that became canon.
No.
Just like that. He's from the Stewjon system. Your name's Jon Stewart. I'm tired of hearing it. And it's canon. Just like that. So he had this magical power to just change Star Wars whenever he wanted. And fans were not having it. They're not a fan of his ability to do this. And then finally, Disney re-released the original trilogy on Disney Plus. It was the first time we had seen Disney create the kind of flex their muscles with the original trilogy. And when they did it, there was one change again to the original Star Wars trilogy. And that change was done not by Disney. It was apparently changed by George Lucas right before he sold the rights to Disney. And that change, for whatever reason, was to the Han Solo Greedo duel that happens in the Cantina in A New Hope. All right.
Yep.
And so this is one of the most hated scenes in Star Wars because George Lucas changed it. Originally, Han Solo shoots Greedo without a word, and it sort of sets up this arc of redemption for Han, that he's sort of like this ruthless killer, and then he kind of gains a heart of gold throughout the trilogy. It's a really nice arc. George Lucas ruins it by trying to make the movie more of a kid film. I'm sorry, I could talk about Star Wars for hours if you want me, and Halo.
Knowledge.
But
all of it.
so George Lucas, in an effort to make it more kid friendly, changed the scene so that Greedo shoots first, and Han, using CGI, dodges him by his character just literally being moved like 6 inches to the left, and then fires back on Greedo. And so instead, it's like, oh, Han was shooting in self-defense. He didn't just kill Greedo out of nowhere.
Right.
And so this new change in Disney Plus was even worse, which is that not only does Greedo shoot first, but they do a close-up on Greedo's face, and he says, "McClunky," just like that. And then it cuts back, and it shows Han Solo dodging the move and shooting back. And McClunky is Huttese. If you speak a little Huttese, as I do, then you would know that McClunky is Huttese for this is the end for you. And so it's not only is Greedo shooting first, but he's also threatening
he's talking,
verbally saying, "I'm going to kill you," so that it even more justifies Han killing him, and therefore even more ruins Han Solo's arc.
My God, that's awful.
So yeah, that is a little bit of it. So this happened on a Friday when Disney Plus came to Star Wars, and I was watching it because I watch Star Wars about a couple times a year, and it was on. It's on Disney Plus. Time to watch it. And I saw the McClunky scene. I was one of the first people probably to see the McClunky scene. It was like 20 minutes after it came out on Disney Plus, and it was just, it blew up the internet. And we were recording a Fireteam Chat episode that day, and we were talking about a Fireteam Chat how everybody had a catchphrase except me. I didn't have a catchphrase.
I'm seeing it now.
So McClunky just showed up, and I threw McClunky out there, and Destin and Brian weren't expecting it, and they started cracking up on the show, and I was like, that's it now, that's my catchphrase. It's just McClunky.
See, now you have to say it like it, McClunky, or however you say it.
McClunky, yeah. I'm not
I love, you do the better impression. I don't know.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
But yeah,
it's just so awkwardly unnecessary. Like, it's just hilarious. It's like, when I saw it, I did my research on it, because I didn't know what it was either till you eloquently described it.
Yeah, I saw the tweet. I saw the tweet, and I was like, is that what? Because I knew the Star Wars, like, you had that, and then I saw the tweet, and I'm like, but I didn't remember it, and then I haven't watched it recently, so I was like, apparently, okay, so we're getting there.
Yeah, it's a horrible Star Wars thing. And the way I like to think of it, my use of McClunky, because if you Google McClunky, the first thing you get are a bunch of articles about how that was weirdly added to Star Wars, and then you get me. It's like associated with like me as my online identity, which is great. Rock with it. Which I absolutely love.
Rock with it, man.
But what I like to think of it is it's in this long tradition of Star Wars fans taking terrible things that happened to Star Wars, like the prequels, and turning them into beloved parts of it, right? Like now the prequels have been memed so hard, people love the prequels. And so I like to think of my use of McClunky and using it as like a replacement for, Excelsior or what have you.
There you go.
That's my contribution to turning a terrible Star Wars thing into something that maybe people like.
I don't know if you can start a show better than that. Damn.
No, we got all the history.
Like, we got to wrap it up right here. We can't do any better. No, just kidding.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So yeah, man, like tremendous history. Before I know we get into IGN stuff, just gaming in general, man. Tremendous history. Give us some of those like passionate consoles and games that really kind of got you excited in gaming before your trajectory, obviously, to Destiny, what we know you for.
Yeah. So I think for me, I've got introduced into video games really early because my grandpa was like just a kind of an old school nerd. Back when we were kids, Cognito, nerds had shame.
Yes,
it was not
cool to
like ashamed about.
Yes,
I kind of grew up in that. Now nerds rule the world, and they're allowed to just be openly nerdy. But
these kids don't know.
Who exactly. Yeah, I'm a nerd who still has shame, and I think that my grandpa was in that, and he. The Atari was a really interesting system because it had a few games, but the main feature of it was you could write your own games. And my grandpa tried to do that. And so he had this really old Atari and it had a few games on it, and I played it. And I was sort of obsessed with video games even from back then. It was just like, it was so cool. And Nintendo came out with their stuff and I played Mario, and it was like, I don't care what I'm doing in life. I want to be involved in video games somehow. Like I need to get need to be a part of this, and so that sort of started me off. But I think the first games that like I really remembered were Legend of Zelda. I know was huge on me. That was like a game that just like blew me out of the water. I did play I was like a Nintendo fanboy, but I played a lot of Sega too. I played a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog. I played Sonic the Hedgehog, as if me saying Sonic is going to confuse you who I'm talking about in games, right? Like,
who's that
you gotta
guy?
say the Hedgehog.
Which Sonic?
Yes. Which Sonic? Are you talking about a cheeseburger?
The food place?
No. So,
Love that.
so yeah. You know, I played a lot of that. But for me, I think the moment that for me was like a big defining moment was when the Xbox came out, Halo Combat Evolved. That was a game that really changed my life. There was something about landing on that ring and then the world just sort of opening up when on that first level, you know, that just was like, wait, I can do. And you go back now, it's such a small area. There's like 3 objectives you do and the level's over.
But that sandbox at the time felt liberating, right? It was just you felt like how we feel about open worlds now. I guess back then we've never seen anything like that. So we're like, I can go there off in the distance. I can do that. Like, yeah, good point. Valid point.
Yeah, and it was a shooter. That was another thing, is that you weren't used to shooters. They were almost on the rails. You were in Doom, you were walking through hallways. You know, that was the shooter we're used to. Yep. So Halo Combat Evolved changed everything for me. The story was so gripping, and a fact about me that I'm sure will come up in the show is that I've read every Halo expanded universe book.
You're a lore guy.
I've spent hundreds of hours reading Halo books. I'm like a huge Halo nerd when it comes to that stuff. I'm just a nerd in general, but there are a few things that I go a little extra with my nerd.
Little extra bonus on top.
You respect it.
That is certainly one area. And then the multiplayer, right? Like playing with my friends at the time, not online, but then Halo 2 came out and I played Halo 2 for years. LAN party with 16 people in someone's basement.
That's amazing.
Days, dual wielding.
That's right. Yeah. And so I think ever since Xbox came out, I've sort of really identified with that community. A lot of my friends play on it. I think that they make a lot of really good games. Obviously, you know, I review games for IGN. I play every console. I play PC. But Xbox, those are where my boys are at. You know, like that's where my Destiny family is. My Bungie family from the Halo days. And
same
you know,
before I betrayed mine to PC, but same.
Yeah.
Hey, 60 frames, man. 60 frames. Continue.
Yeah, that's some of my favorite games. BioShock, that game I think just like raised the level of storytelling. Obviously I like Mass Effect and some of the basic games, but
which Mass Effect? I gotta ask you, which one's your favorite?
2.
Oh man, McClunky.
2.
See, I'm waiting. I have never actually touched a Mass Effect. Which is like
the trilogy,
but I'm waiting edition next year.
That definitive remaster, or whatever. That's got my name all over it. So
that for sure is going to happen. It's like the worst kept secret in gaming. It's like Fable. Remember when Xbox was pretending for 2 weeks, for 2 years that Fable wasn't a game, and we all knew it was. Yeah, so I think. I think that is for sure definitely something to hop on. Mass Effect. That Mass Effect 2 was. Peak Mass Effect in my book.
Absolutely. Suicide Mission. Salute.
Yeah. Suicide Mission. Exactly.
Salute.
Also, Suicide Mission, one of the best songs in gaming. The soundtrack for that song, it's just
forgot about that.
Gets your blood pumping.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. Good point.
Yeah, you got to go back and listen to that song. It really does a good job of provoking all those memories. But yeah, I'm one of those gamers who legitimately, not just saying this, legitimately likes every genre of video game. Like there's no genre I stay away from. I love platformers. I love fighting games. I love open world RPGs, addicted to shooters. I have a pretty good breadth of games. And I feel like that's in this world where there are a million games and all of them want you to play them for 100 hours a week. Like that's the world we live in now. And I feel like that's narrowing. You know, there's like the Fortnite group and there's the group that plays like indies and there's the Nintendo guys. And it's sort of rare to find somebody like me who really has like a need. I have to own every game. I have to play them all. I have to know a little bit about everything. And
I respect you for that.
It's tough.
It's tough. That's
just one of those when it comes to time, because I mean, there's so many games that'll come out that either I've missed or I jumped on, and then another one pulled me away, and the Destiny pulls me back. And because there's stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn, started that one. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came right after that. And then Destiny launched something, I'm pretty sure in April, right after that. So those two are finished sitting incomplete amongst many other things. So when you're just sitting there saying like, you want to play everything, like there's so many that like I'm with you that I would love. Mine's pretty wide breadth too. So it's like it's nice to see, hey, I just love like my sports games, or I love my shooters, or it's nice to have a good variety. Unfortunately, then you have so much more that you have to try and get your hands around, and you usually don't have time for it.
Yeah, and it's tough, man. I think the proliferation of every game demanding so much of your time is like a kind of a problem in video games. Mm-hmm. Like it's sort of like the new issue is like, how do you keep up with Destiny? I remember when The Division came out. Everyone was like, how am I going to play Destiny and The Division? Yeah. And now that problem is like a million times worse. Like just playing Destiny and The Division sounds like paradise to me. Like that sounds like such an easy task because now I have to keep up with a million games that I have no chance of keeping up with. And it's really tough, man, picking your battles. Like I've had to skip. I remember I used to really like to play like FIFA when it would come out. And now it's like, I haven't played FIFA in years. It's just, I don't have time for it. There's so many games that I have to play.
Absolutely.
So my secret has been the ones that really matter, I try to review them for someone. Like I want, if I can review them, like I reviewed Horizon Zero Dawn specifically because I knew if I didn't review it, I wouldn't have time to ever play it. So I found a way to review it. I got through the game because you have to finish the game if you're reviewing it. And then the ones that are less important yeah, some outlets have different policies on that, certainly. IGN makes you finish the game. That's one of the rules. That's why I had to spend 150 hours in Genshin. They make you finish the game. I didn't know that.
Wow.
So,
wow. That's a big
you kind of agree to it. So like you have to pick your battles. Like they were like, Travis, do you want to review Genshin? And I did a bunch of research and I was like, sweating. Like, I know, just seeing the next 2 weeks of my life passing by and taking those battles. But if I didn't review it, I never would have played Genshin Impact. I just don't have time for it. I just don't. So I'm glad I took the review.
I was like, so when you take a project like that and you're like, say this is going to be a big thing, or something along the lines of if somebody's going to take Witcher, that's pretty giant undertaking as well. I mean, do you just like talk to your boss, I'm going to review The Witcher, and you hide in an office for like 2 weeks, just like sitting there playing, making your notes to it? And is it just like that is your life for 2 weeks and you don't really worry about anything else? Or is your job still pulling you multiple other directions? I didn't know how dedicated you get when something like that's on the line versus your day-to-day type stuff.
Yeah, no, that's cute that you think that we even get to go into the office when we're reviewing a game. When we get a game to review, we go, bye for 3 weeks. Really? I'm going to be at home playing this every minute of every day. Because typically we don't have a lot of lead time. We've got like 1 week, 2 weeks, and we have to hit embargo because all of your content is meaningless if you don't get it at launch, right? Yep. Genshin Impact was different because it's a live game that we weren't allowed to review it in advance. We had to play it after the game came out. And it also wasn't really on anyone's radar. Like I had never heard of the game, and then all of a sudden it sort of blew up. And I think the reason it wasn't on anybody's radar is because people were already playing it. It was like one of those early access games where people were playing it for like 6 months before or whatever. But yeah, typically if you're reviewing a game like The Witcher and the person that's reviewing Cyberpunk obviously is like in a bunker in their house basically. So they're probably not coming in unless, and they'll take equipment home with them. Like we have a bunch of community like gaming rigs that you can pick up with a handle and just like take, they're like portable. So people will take those for to home for work or whatever other materials they need, like a monitor, recording equipment, all that stuff, and then come back when they're ready. And I will say, just like the worst experience I've ever had is reviewing a VR game. I don't know if you guys are into VR.
I've got one.
I've not been. I've traditionally not been into VR. Half-Life Alyx changed my.
That's what you can play
completely on VR. That's my game of the year. Bro. I just want to say a PSA right now, since I have this platform to do this. If you have not played Half-Life Alyx, find a way to do it. I understand it's like basically impossible to play. Like 1% of the gaming community has played it or whatever.
I should probably play it.
It is legitimately, that how we all thought VR was going to change gaming and that was all we were going to want. Like everybody was just going to be in like those pods, laying down, like the Wally visor, helmet. We all thought that was going to happen. That the opposite happened. It was like demos and kind of like they were just like showcasing like, hey, isn't this a fun little whack-a-mole game that you can play? Like Beat Saber, I could play Beat Saber for hours, but like
talking to one of the champs.
It's not the most impressive game. It doesn't make you feel like you've been transported to another world. Half-Life Alyx legitimately meets that bar. Like it makes every other VR game look like a tech demo. It is so immersive and so good and has so much detail. Like, yeah, you have to play that game. Anyway.
No. Let me stop you because you're making a good point. Shout out to E because he's definitely, him and wifey are definitely the Beat Saber champions. But back to your Half-Life Alex point.
She kicks my butt. Like,
she's a beast. I told her she could go pro. She could go pro.
That and Tetris, and I lose at both.
The woman is godly. I don't know how she's capable of these feats, but salute to Summer. What I was going to say is, it's funny you said that because on Iron Lord Podcast, we've had Bill Stillwell on, and he was the one responsible for Xbox Backcompat. Then he went to Project xCloud. Now he's doing Facebook VR. And he's been on me about it because I'm Captain Skeptical. I'm like, this ain't going to work. And who's going to buy this peripheral? And da-da-da-da. And he said the same thing you said about Half-Life Alex. He said, until you experience it, it's so transformative. So now hearing what you're saying, I have to experience. Like, I need to know what this is about. So yeah,
it figured out all the stuff that annoyed me about VR. Like for me, my plan was to stay away from VR until they got rid of the cords.
Me too.
Because that's my concern. You get wrapped up in them. Yeah, and so I was waiting for that to happen. Obviously, Oculus Rift is there, and that's the wireless one, but it's not really. It's not a premium gaming platform. It's sort of like a downgraded version that you can wear on your head, right?
Yep.
This game, it figured everything out. Like you have gravity gloves. So rather than walking over to an item, you point at it and you pull it toward you and then you catch it, right? So you can shoot a guy with your gun and then as he's falling, you can pull his gun, yank it toward you, grab it and start using it on some other people.
Oh, that's awesome.
When you store items, you just pick them up and you let go behind you, like you're putting it in your backpack. And so if you run out of ammo, you eject your gun clip, you reach behind you, grab, pull it out, and you're holding the ammo, put it in. It's so, like, they just figured out all the stuff that you really want. And it's so immersive. Like, I got on all fours to look under the bed to get some ammo because you're kind of like looking for supplies in the game, right? And when I was done looking under the bed, I tried to put my hand on the bed to help me get back up. It's like that level where you're like, wait, that bed's not there. Like, this is crazy, guys.
Wow.
Like, yeah, so you gotta play it.
Whenever I get a new graphics card, because I've got a 1080 Ti and it does pretty good in Beat Saber and stuff, but if I want to go like deep on Alex, I think like get the next level. Yeah, give me a 3080, something like that. Just push it to the max and can be full detail. That would be, that sounds amazing, man. That's one. So I was going to actually ask you, Half-Life 2 is put on this like crazy pedestal. Would you knock it off and put Alex up there instead now?
So I would have not put Half-Life 2 on that pedestal necessarily to begin with. Yeah. To be honest, like, here's the thing. I respect the hell out of Half-Life 2. When it came out, it did some stuff with like physics and the in-game engine that has never been done before. But it's not been my cup of tea. I've never been really drawn to the story that much. I think that the main character is kind of bland. I've had issues with it that I think, it just didn't connect with me as much. Half-Life Alex made me want to go back and play Half-Life 1 and 2. Like it really was at that level that it was so good. So yeah, I'm a believer in VR now. And could not recommend everyone enough. Buy the Index. It's the best VR headset out there. It's way too expensive. It's $1,000.
Yeah, but it's not.
Once you get it, here's the thing. Oculus has all the exclusives because they got that Facebook money.
Right. But
you can get a mod to play all of the Oculus games on Index, and they work well. So all I'm saying is I don't own an Oculus, and I've been playing lots of Oculus games. They're not great. I think the biggest problem with Half-Life Alex is once you've played it, again, going back to other VR games,
go back to
these are not good.
Yeah, you can probably play Beat Saber for the experience, and then after that, you're like, nah.
Super Hot is good on VR. If you play Super Hot, that game on console, as soon as it was announced for VR, I was like, oh yeah, that would be better on VR, wouldn't it? And it was. It's like, and it's a different game too, so it's not like you're replaying the old VR game. It's got a separate storyline and everything.
Nice,
just cool. Salute. Yeah. Anyway, my point in all of this is that reviewing VR games is terrible. That's how we got started.
That's where we were. Way to bring it up full circle. There you go. He's a professional.
Yeah, if you've never had to put a helmet on and be in a virtual reality world for a couple hours a day, I do not recommend it. It will make you, especially if I reviewed No Man's Sky and I had to play a lot of VR for that. And that's one of those games where the frame rate is not, it's PSVR. The frame rate is not fast enough for your eyes. And I was just throwing up like 2 times a day. It's like those, you know when you throw up and it's like because you have a brain headache. It was one of those where like you're feeling so feverish you can't like control your body. Brutal, man. The things we do to review a game.
Yeah, this man out here putting in work and putting his body through literally blood, sweat, and tears. Damn.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, not blood yet, but I'm sure we'll get there.
I was like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, my fingers are, I just can't feel them. Too much typing. The war review is too long.
Nah, man. I mean, tremendous, man. I mean, like I said, just to see everything that you guys are doing over there. And then obviously, you know, the Fireteam Chat transition, what a lot of people know you for, man. Like, how did that whole thing get together with Destin and now, what you got, Brian, right?
Brian Malkowitz, and Paul Tassi is sort of like the unofficial.
Yeah, so it's like the full chair.
He's like he's everywhere. That man.
He's on every show.
Shout out to Tassi. We just had him on too.
He's great. Yeah, he's on actually our episode of Fireteam Chat is going to start airing during this podcast or during this recording. So he's on this week's episode.
Salute to
I
Tassi.
tweeted out and he was like, all my worlds are colliding because like DCP, then this, then that. He's something.
Yeah, I need to get on DCP at some point. But yeah, so yeah, Fireteam Chat has been around for a really long time, and it sort of has had a revolving cast based on two things: people playing Destiny. Because you have to remember when Fireteam Chat started, it was sort of a first time that one video game had its own podcast, especially at IGN. At IGN, we'd had a podcast for Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, and then one that was like a grab bag, right? Like that had been our formula for a while. And so it was really weird to have a podcast where it was like about one game, but we were seeing our traffic for Destiny was super high. And, you know, the joke in the gaming community is people still play Destiny at the time, like, and now obviously they still do. That's like no question there. But at the time it was like, yeah, they're still playing Destiny. Lots of people. And we're getting 1 million plus views on every article we publish about Destiny. Like, this is a huge game.
That's right.
So he started that show. And at the time, so my backstory of how I got into reviewing video games was, you know, I had sort of done it as a hobby after college. I wrote freelance for different websites, anybody who would pay me to review. And even then, sometimes for companies that wouldn't pay me to review, just, you know, pro bono work. And but what my day job was, I work in advertising, and I actually started working for IGN's parent company, which is a company called Ziff Davis. They're like an old school tech media conglomerate. They own like PC Mag and every other online publisher you've ever heard of. And so I just by chance, I got hired on the same day that Ziff Davis bought IGN. And they told us that we were moving into the IGN office. That was my first day at work.
Wow.
Like, and so I was a huge gamer. I had been writing reviews, not for IGN, obviously. I was writing for indie outlets, but I had been writing reviews for years. And I was just like, wow, I'm going to be hanging out with the IGN crew. That's insane. And so, you know, we moved in, and I was working on the other side of the office as the IGN crew. And I would just start chit-chatting with people in the office about games. And through that, became really good friends with a few people on the team. James Duggan was one of my, buds I would have talked to all the time.
Thug and Duggan.
Yeah, Thug and Duggan. Just talk about how big his arms are all day.
Shout out to the guns.
Finnegan and I bonded over our mutual love of Halo.
My guy right there.
Yeah, he really is into Halo. CJ and I. Yeah, Finnegan's really cool. He works for is it 100 Thieves or something? I can't remember what it works for now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And CJ and I, CJ is another guy who he worked on the IGN team, but he wasn't really on the coverage team. He was a video guy.
Yep.
Similar to Brian, they both worked in video, and we all had this thing in common, which was that we played Destiny. And so I would start talking to Destin and anybody else who's playing Destiny around the office, and they were like, this guy knows a lot about Destiny. And I was sort of like, the joke was I was like the unofficial member of Fireteam Chat because I didn't work for IGN, but I was always in the conversation. We would be talking about Destiny, and then they'd be like, all right, bye, we're going to go record the show now. And then I would go back to my office and start working on those Excel spreadsheets, like that was my life at the time.
It kind of breaks my heart hearing that. It's like the kid that wasn't allowed to play with the people.
Yeah. It was
they
like
picked teams and you were the odd man out. Yeah.
It was actually like that for a while for a few people. It wasn't just me. Like, it was like, I think for the longest time it was Fran, and I can't remember who was originally on the show, but it wasn't CJ. I think CJ originally That's it. Yes, thank you. And so he went to go work for,
went to Nintendo.
Oh yeah, Otero, that's my guy.
Actually, there's an ongoing joke in IGN that like whoever becomes the host of the Nintendo podcast works for Nintendo like a year later, because that has just been how it is.
Been the trajectory.
Like 3 times in a row.
That has been the trajectory, Shell. Shout out to my boy. He from the Boogie Down, bro. He from my borough, so I respect Jose,
is
man.
he?
Yeah,
That's
he
great.
from the Bronx, man. Yeah, shout out to him, man. Good guy. Met him a few times. Yeah, he was at hosting Nintendo Voice Chat, and then obviously, the Nintendo thing. But continue the Destiny stories.
Yeah. So
I like this.
CJ was kind of also in my camp. He was like the unofficial extra member of Fireteam Chat, where he was always on the conversation but never on the show because he wasn't known for being on the show. And so in my writing in my spare time for these indie outlets, I started to cover Destiny because I was the biggest Bungie fan in any of these outlets. Like that was just my specialty. And so I started covering Destiny a lot, doing reviews for different sites on Destiny content, writing articles, doing editorial pieces. And then when the Taken King came out, I got invited to go to Bungie's headquarters for the first time.
Wow.
Just as me. And they were like, you can cover it and you can write for whatever outlet you want. We just want you to be there. And I showed up, and I can't remember who was there. I think it was Destin. And he was like, Travis, you're here? What are you doing?
What are you doing here?
Like,
yeah, man.
You're the guy. Yeah. And so, and it happened years later too, when I went to go cover it for PC, and it was like a year or two later. It was like after Destiny 2 came out when they did the PC port.
Yep.
And James Duggan saw me, and he was like, wait, what? Don't you work in the IGN office for like the suits? Like you're part of the corporate group? And I was like, yeah. And I also covered Destiny. What up?
What up, though? We here, we crashed the party. What's up?
Yeah. So I was sort of crashing the party working with IGN. And I remember at the Taken King event, they did a Crucible thing. I think the new mode was the what's the one where you have to go and pick up the kill confirmed, that mode that nobody
Supremacy.
liked?
Supremacy.
Thank you. I always forget the name. Supremacy was coming out, so they had a whole Crucible segment. I was so good at Destiny Crucible at the time. I will not claim to be the world's greatest Crucible player now. I'm a Crucible main. I enjoy it, but I used to just be God tier. I was so good at Destiny. So
humble brag.
I see you. I see you. Not even humble. I was very good.
Tell him what you did.
So I ruined Destin's footage. He was recording for IGN, and it was just a montage of him getting destroyed by me. Every time he spawned.
Lucky! Where's the footage, Destin? Where's the footage?
We need to see this, please.
I need to see this.
Oh, that needs to be.
This is the best part of the story. This is the best part of the story. I went there just as me to record footage, right?
Right.
And I ruined Destin's Crucible footage so bad it was unsalvageable that he ended up using mine for the IGN footage that they did on the coverage. So he was just like, hey, so like, can I borrow a few clips? Because like, I'm not going to put a video of me just getting spawn killed nonstop with a sniper rifle, you know? And, you know, I think I was using, Icebreaker, just respawning ammo.
Is this the first time this is like public out there? You outing them right now?
Yeah. I think this is the first time. No, actually.
Yeah.
I'm outing them. Actually, no, that's not true. We did it. We remember when they were doing the charity run a couple months ago for, I think it was right when COVID started. Yep. We did a charity run and we were talking stories, and I think I told the story, and Destin quickly like scooted by it and was like, anyway, next topic.
I was going to be like, so Travis, why aren't you on Fireteam Chat next week? What happened?
Oh my God.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, that's actually an ongoing joke. Destin has fired me from Fireteam Chat like every month since I started. He's like, you're off the show every moment.
Salute,
but yeah,
man.
so that's how I got into Destiny coverage. And then years went by. I continued to work at IGN, but never write for them. And eventually someone, I think it was James Duggan, was like, dude, you should just write for us. Like, I know you have a day job, but like, you should write for us freelance. And so I tried to do that, and corporate said, we're not going to pay you 2 paychecks. We're not going to pay you your day job, and then also you get a check from IGN for writing for them. And so I quit.
Wow, bro.
I quit my job after 8 years, and I was like, I'm gonna quit and just work for IGN and write for you guys. And so I gave up the 6-figure cushy job at the other side of the office so that I could write for them. And ever since then, I've been covering Destiny. I do all of Destiny's reviews now because Destin really hates doing reviews. If you guys don't know Destin's job, he's like the director of video content strategy. He's a beast. And he also does a ton of previews and early access coverage.
Multimedia
he's really good.
Beast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's really good at what he does, but he hates reviewing games. Mm-hmm. And he had sort of been stuck with reviewing Destiny because he knew the most about it. And so now I'm the review guy for Destiny, and then he gets to just focus on hosting Fireteam Chat and having a million Twitter followers, and then I do the
No, but I want to back you up though. I want to back you up because I think that is a tremendous portion of your story that you kind of glossed over, and I don't want to minimize that because at the end of the day, like, dude, like to really to chase one's dream is one thing. But to go from a stable position where most people would say, okay, I can do this and be stable and be in one spot for the rest of my life, to kind of chase your dream and to do what you want to do and to make that sacrifice, dude, that's huge. So I gotta commend you. Not a lot of people have the gumption to do it. And it's truly respected because it comes from the heart, comes from the passion. And yeah, wish you more success with that. That is amazing to hear something like that. You don't hear that often, so salute to you on that. That's really great.
Yeah, I mean, it took me long enough, right? I worked in the same office as IGN for 8 years, and it took me that long to be like, I should be on your side of the office. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing over here.
That's that's so. I don't know, not petty's the right word, but it was like for parent company just to say, hey, we don't. Because, I mean, it's not like you're doing it. You're not like, in your office spreadsheet on one screen, Destiny on the other. You're like, you're doing that on your own time as freelance, but they're like, you can't. And it's, I don't know. That's just, I mean, they lost a good one. It sounds like
a good one.
So and I was high up. I was director of advertising operations. Wow. Like I was doing a ton of their stuff, not just for IGN too, for like a lot of their properties. So they actually said it in the nicest way possible, which is they said like, oh yeah, it'll take some time for HR to look into this, and then never, they did that whole thing where they just never got back to you. And eventually I was like, you know what? Now you don't have a say because I'm going.
Now over here.
I'm just going to go write reviews.
What we want to do. That's what's up, man. Salute to you on that. Tremendous. You got anything more? Because I got one more question afterwards.
You go one more right now. I was like, there's more stuff, but if you got one, sit and go for it. Because I was like. Yeah.
No, the only question I was gonna we got to have some Destiny fun now.
Please.
Unapologetic Titan main.
That's the right answer. Thank you very much.
Correct.
Fix your facey.
We have had a lot of warlocks recently, and I have been outnumbered. So I'm glad I got a friend here.
It's been a lot of warlocks come through, but I gotta shout out the Titan mains, man. So tell me about that. Why?
It's not. I didn't choose the Titan life; it chose me. I'm done. Titan's a tough class to be because as the champions of last year's contest to see who was the best, wherein we utterly dominated every single day. You have a certain kind of authority. People kind of look up to you. Hunters are at the bottom going, please, like you're such a role model. Teach me your ways. And so it's just a lot of responsibility. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I am dead.
No, you know what it was?
This Titan slander was lit.
I'm actually did you start as Titan D1 so straight up?
Yeah, so okay. I tried all the classes during the beta on PS4. Mm-hmm. No, was it PS4? What console came out? Yeah, PS4. Yeah, it was the beta for the alpha for PS4. There was the one that was only exclusive, right? I knew I was going to get it on Xbox because all my Bungie friends are on Xbox.
Wait, was it PS3 to PS4? Because there was
no, it was not.
No, it was PS4. So, that's 8 years. Yeah,
it came out 2014, which is a year after because I always remember the 2013 is what people refer to Xbox's fall. That press conference.
That's how you shake it.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Pretty big deal. Kind of changed the whole industry. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Yeah, so I played on the Alpha PS4, and I was like, Titans are basically Master Chief, right? Like, this is a Bungie game. They're like the ones who can take a bullet. They're bulkier. They don't back down. And, I like playing as hunters. I think they have some cool abilities. Warlocks are...
You see,
they're also in the game. And
this is clunkly, man. You was here until this segment, man. The slander, the disrespect. He's so smooth with it, and I'm gonna let it rock. But you on fire right now. You on fire. Talk that Titan talk. This is E's time. I'm gonna let E have this. He's been waiting for a type of segment.
I have to. You know what my favorite joke was from Destiny 1 is remember in Destiny 1. If I'm right, Warlocks were the only class to not have an exotic boots.
Yes.
Which is a joke. And I remember the joke, at least with my friends on Xbox, was whenever we'd get a new guy in the party who's a Warlock, we'd be like, hey, you know why Warlocks don't have any exotic boots? And they go, why? And be like, they don't need boots since they're always getting carried.
Oh,
and I still stand behind that, because you remember back then it was the res. That was what drew people to Warlock, is like, oh, I can die and come back.
Yeah, it was a crutch. It was a crutch. We were definitely a crutch of every nightfall and raid, in trials. Whenever that man went down.
You know that your class is casual if Deej mains your class.
Oh,
speaking of Deej,
all right, now see, we gonna stop now. Now
you're going too far with Deej, and let me tell you, he's not great.
We're not going to slander the great Deej.
Oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing.
Proof gang in the chat, stand up. This man is disrespectful. And also, truth be known, your hero, your Lance Reddick, he is a Warlock, man.
He is. And
which is a shame, because he voice acts the Titan.
He was on an episode of Fireteam Chat. That's where he revealed that he's a Warlock main. And on it, he said, once you go Warlock, you don't go back. And coming from a Titan, oh man, that was a big blow to our morale that day.
That one hurt a little bit.
You praying to a false god. I had to throw one back.
Zavala takes off his armor, and there's a robe sitting underneath, and you're like, what the hell?
But salute to that. Real quick, while we having fun with Titans, this is a question I always ask E. I gotta ask you though, because as much as we joke with the classes, we got respect for the Titan. What's your favorite Titan NPC? Who's your favorite?
Ooh, well, here's the fun part.
You got a pantheon of Titans right now.
That's true. I will have to go with Saint 14, and I think that's the obvious answer. To me, Titans are the weakest class in terms of the characters associated with them. Zavala is like unapologetically the worst member of the Vanguard. I think we all agree that he's not good. Like he's just
shout out.
He's he's super milquetoast and uninteresting. But Saint 14 always. I was a Defender Titan in D1. I kind of wish there was a dedicated subclass for that. Rather, you know how it kind of feels tacked on to the current Void subclass for Titans because it was originally tacked on and then they fleshed it out a little bit more. But I've always been a Defender Titan. Saint 14, really identify with him. I think he was the best season. That season where you got to do that story.
Dawn,
I think that was the best non-main expansion season in Destiny, I think.
I am the greatest Titan that ever lived.
Yes, it was great. Yeah, seeing him come back and being able to save him and all that stuff was dope. And his helmet is like, it's one of the only must-have items in the game, because the Titan bubble's kind of useless without the Saint 14 helmet. If you're not using that, like, what are you doing? Like,
if you're running that subclass, that is the exotic to wear, and the imagery of that exotic as well. Like, over everything in the game, you could show that to anybody who's ever played Destiny, and they know exactly what it is.
Iconic.
Exactly.
I can show you any other like Warlock helm, Hunter helm. They might know there's a few, but that one, zero question. It's
fact.
Yeah. It is 100%.
Random side note, Titan question. I gotta ask you guys, why does my boy doesn't seem to get much love in Titan lore? No one seems to like our Iron Lord brother.
Saladin?
Oh yeah.
Why Saladin doesn't get? I never heard anyone. Everyone says Shax, Saint 14. Yeah, nobody says Zavala, but no one says Saladin. I wonder why.
Yeah, Saladin is one of the only one of the only Titans who really has gotten a lot of backstory to him. He basically got his own DLC, right? Which all of the other Titans have either always been in the game as a vendor, or they got like a side thing. Like Sate 14 got a little side thing. But Lord Saladin was right in the center of his own mainline expansion. And I think that hasn't really happened. I think the reason people forget about him is just because they turned him into a vendor. And he's kind of not interesting anymore. And I kind of hate that. Because he was super dope in D1.
Rise of Iron
Axe. Oh my God. Like, the Fire Axe, when he did that, you've got him with Siva coming out, and that opened the cinematic with him and the wolves. And of course I have Huskies, so the wolves, I was like, dude, you're like my guy here. And then as you said it perfectly, it's like now he's just a vendor who shows up every so often, probably too often, but
I just wish I feel for him, because I agree. I think when his introduction was so impactful. And I mean, look, Iron Lord podcast started because the Rise of Iron, like that's how much. And I'm like, damn, I want to play Zavala. So it's interesting to see, his just being reduced to a vendor, and I'm just, it's sad. Like I want to see him involved more in the narrative. At least, especially when events happen, he doesn't really change his dialogue much. And I just want to see him kind of react to what's going on in the world. Objectively.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool if they gave him something to do, or maybe brought him back even for like a season pass, like make a story about his character, or bring Siva back or something. But if you would have asked me who my favorite Titan was in Destiny, who actually shows up in the game, in the year Rise of Iron was a thing, I would have said Lord Saladin, no hands down, because that's like obvious, because Shaxx is great. I'm a Crucible main, so like for me, I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time with Shaxx. But yeah, Saladin's amazing. He's a really good character that I wish they used better. This is a gripe I've had in Destiny forever, is like all these great characters, all these great concepts for stories, and they don't use any of it. They just let it just sit on the shelf.
I mean, and Dakota just said Ikora hasn't had a look in quite a long time. And you've got so many dangling threads. You've got the Aldrin storyline, of which we're like, is that actually going to happen? There's like rumors and questions, and is this icon actually going to be a thing? And Paul Tassie's like kind of nailing it down that it actually might be fairly close. But either way you look at all of these things that we've been through, there's so much that's still, as you said, unused stories that are so set up with a lot of potential to them.
Yeah, we have a lot of like right now we've got whatever the heck's going on with Savathun. We've got the Darkness plot line and the fact that they're coming, and the Shadowkeep ending where you meet the Darkness and it looks like you and all that stuff. Spoiler alert if you're listening to a Destiny podcast and somehow haven't played a year old.
You're a little late to that raid. Come on now.
So that whole thing is you got it right. The Uldren Sov is a loose plotline thread. Even stuff like the curse in the Dreaming City that is repeated. Like, did we solve that? Like, what is going on?
What's going on?
I mean, I keep wondering that one specifically. It was like, because as soon as they said what destinations were leaving and what's staying, the fact that the Dreaming City is still staying, we have Savathun coming. There might be. My hunch has been always like, if they're gonna like rehash a destination like they did with Cosmodrome, but then bring a new one in to give you like 2 new destinations for the expansions, but not make one quite as much work. Like Dreadnought with like a Dreaming City tie-in or something like that to get a little bit of story through there. And if Savathun comes, and that's the Savathun, death battery that's going on and all that stuff. Like, I'm with you. Is like, I've spent way too much time in the Shattered Throne just because, like, I worked on dungeon videos and stuff in there for me, and I'm just like, at some point I feel really sorry for these people every week. And I did Ascendant videos for like a year, the Ascendant challenges. Like every time I'd go talk to Petra, I'm like, here we are again. Like, and I'm just like, I feel sorry for an entire year. I'm like, and it hasn't changed for like, we're going into year 4, and I'm going, I don't think you're going to get any better news yet.
Yeah.
And that's really that's weird.
I think if they do redo the Dreaming City, they'll probably just like keep the map the same, and then they'll add like a Throne World version of it, because we're definitely going to go into Savathun's Throne World. Like, that has been sort of hinted at in the lore, and the fact that we're getting pulled into an unknown Throne World every week in this this season of arrivals, that sort of thing. So I think we're probably going to end up. I would be interested to see if we'll get a Throne World as a destination in Destiny, like something on your map that you go to. It'll probably more likely than that be like the raid, and maybe it'll be in strikes and that sort of stuff. But do you guys happen to know whose Throne World we're going into in like the strike that's in the Dreaming City and stuff like that. Like,
the corrupted strike.
Yeah, the corrupted strike. Like, I don't really know I know that in Shattered Throne, you're entering Mara Sov's throne world, right? And it's all destroyed. King's Fall, you enter Oryx's throne world. Right. I'm not really sure whose throne world we're in the Dreaming City, but I assume that it's Savathun.
We got to call Bife back. We have to have Bife back on again.
Yeah, I know. Be like, we need to call up the Bife.
Yeah, we got to call Bife. That's a Bife call. Mylan Games. We're going to have to call them, get them in. Because, I am not sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. Or somebody in the comments I see said the Ascendant Plane. I'm not sure if the Ascendant Plane is just like a generic catch-all for like throne worlds, but to me, they seem an awful lot similar, the two, right?
Yeah, they all look like the Upside Down from Stranger Things, so and that was like perfectly timed, so that's all you can think of too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like they always mention the Ascendant Plane, and you do the Ascendant challenges, but yeah, it's like they have that exact same look when you go to Mara Sov's for Shattered Throne. I'm like, we're talking the same very dark, drab, black and white, monochrome look throughout the entire thing, and yet very specifically Mara Sov's throne with all of that going on. Savathun, hopefully at some point, but Dreaming City, the Ascendant Plane always seems weird, and you're always talking to what's the little floating Toland. I don't know what he's doing there either. Maybe it's his.
Yeah, Toland. That's another one.
Mm-hmm. That's like you know what it is. Toland is just Osiris. Instead of being in the Infinite Forest, he's in the Ascendant Plane, and it's like the exact same arc. It's like, hey, there once was this cool person, and now he is in this other world, and he focuses on just that. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, good point.
Quick question. Just curious. Top 3 raids for all of the franchise.
Oh, we going there. See that man's plaques in the back.
Shoulder real quick.
You see that man's plaques in the back.
Like you need to like check. Hold on, be like, what are those raids called? Like you don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll give. So this is. Let's just get this out of the way because I don't think it's gonna surprise anyone. But my 3 favorite raids are all in Destiny 1. I mean, Destiny 2 is a great game. I think the shooting mechanics are awesome, better than Destiny 1. But they put a lot of time in those raids, with the exception of Crota's End, which I kind of think is bad. I think it's bad. But that's okay.
You're winning him back. You're winning Cognito back right now.
You're back home, baby. We forgive the Titan slander now. Let's go. Talk that raid ranking.
I love Hunters and Warlocks, but I'm duty bound as a Titan to give them flack anytime I can. Anyway, I think in order, Vault of Glass.
2. Ooh,
this is tough because Wrath of the Machine and King's Fall are both so good.
Bring it home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with King's Fall and Wrath of the Machines because, and that's in order of their release minus Crota's End, which is sort of like a middle one. But for me, Vault of Glass, it changed so much in the gaming world. I remember Destiny came out and it kind of went over like a wet fart, was my memory of it. Like nobody really cared except for the people who really were getting into it for some reason. But at the beginning it was sort of, but I remember a month later, it was a full month before Vault of Glass came out. And when that happened, that game changed. It was unreal. And I remember I stayed up all night the night that it came out, and I was playing it all through the weekend with this group of people that I'm still friends with on Xbox Live. Sometimes I talk to them. Like, you always remember who you did like Vault of Glass with. Bro. Like Crota's End, maybe not, but Vault of Glass, like you remember those people. You remember who you were with.
Salute the Crota End slander. I love it. Continue.
So, yeah. I mean, and it was great. Obviously, it had some bugs, and people figured out, you can stand far away and just use Icebreaker to kill the first boss, or even just push it off the edge, and you can push the final boss off the edge. But it took people a while to figure that out because we were new to raids. We hadn't kind of figured out all the tricks yet, right?
Absolutely.
And, Crota, I remember the first weekend we were playing that raid, we were already pulling out our Ethernet cables. So I just remember that's, that's my recollection of those those raids. But yeah, Vault of Glass was just really well designed. it has one of my favorite lines in Destiny, which is "Guardians make their own fate."
Nice.
That flavor text, I think they call it,
so good.
is such a satisfying.
So good.
I don't know why they don't put that in more, because now it's sort of used as like an information feed, like you're getting updates from like CNN. Like it's like put some stuff in there, like I want to see some cool nuggets of information.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that was really cool. And then, Crota's End, they added everybody was a bullet sponge, and every encounter was just, can you kill a lot of things that have a lot of health? That was my main problem
dope,
with it.
In defense of Crota, I like the dive down. It was kind of
That's
cinematic.
true.
It's kind of cool.
That's true. The very beginning.
Yeah.
Very beginning is kind of cool.
The very beginning is cool, and the very end and how you kill the boss is cool. But just my recollection of that whole bridge encounter.
The music.
The music too.
Yeah.
The music legit when you get the sword.
The music's good in everything of Destiny. Like, it's just like every single track is a banger in Destiny. I was at Bungie HQ with a bunch of outlets, and we were just talking for like 2 hours about all of the good music in Destiny and what our favorite songs were and all this stuff. And you can get into a rabbit hole of that alone. But for me, King's Fall, the reason that wins over Wrath of the Machines is purely because of the lore and the final boss fight. Oryx was the best villain Destiny's ever had. Factual. My biggest problem with Destiny is that they've not had one villain that we're fighting against this whole time. They create a villain and we know him for about 6 hours before we kill whoever that was.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem.
Shout out to the worm god we killed in a strike in 1 mile. Shout out.
Exactly.
We killed
in a strike.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that they kind of, and I think it's a retcon. I don't think they had this plan from the beginning, but they brought Zol back and were like, oh, he tricked you into killing him. Isn't Destiny a good game? And that sort of thing. But because you remember they brought him back in the secret. Whisper. Yeah, so and they were like, oh yeah, maybe he was just toying with us the whole time. But I kind of hate that we haven't had an overarching villain. What I thought, I reviewed Destiny 2 vanilla as well, and what I was hoping is that Destiny 2 would last 3 years or however long it lasted, just like Destiny 1 did, and that Gaul would be the villain for all of those years.
Yeah,
and maybe we would do different stuff.
Gaul was cool.
He was cool, and he had a lot of potential, but his biggest problem was that they turned him into like Goku in the last story mission, and then he got killed. And it's just like, what the hell, man? Like, it could have been dope. So,
I mean, and chat's basically saying like the only other one right now is Savathun, but it's like she doesn't feel real.
Yeah,
she feels like, how like in. You know how like there's some properties where like you only know about characters from like the expanded universe comic book, or like the novel that nobody knew about, like Bucky from Halo, like know about him because he was in ODST or whatever.
Facts.
Stuff like that. She feels like she's part of the expanded universe.
Yes.
And she's this big bad villain who we've never seen. You only know anything about her if you've read the Grimoire and are a nerd like me. She's been alluded to forever, but I would guarantee you that 99.7% of the Destiny community has no idea who Savathun is. And they would probably be like, oh yeah, their name was in a strike or something like that. Like that's the farthest they
it's
get.
Like the name Savathun has been on like Enemies, and you had Savathun's song and all those pieces, but I was like, I mean, Prescott said it. She's like Sauron of Lord of the Rings. It's like it's the far away threat that in theory is terrifying in potential, but we don't have a clue because we've never seen it in action. And then
Sauron's actually being nice to it, because Sauron, at least you get to see him kick ass in the opening scene.
Right. You get to see a little bit.
True. Savathun, it would be like if at the beginning of Lord of the Rings you get to see like Sauron's brother kill a bunch of people, and then they spend the rest of the movie talking about Sauron.
That's good. That's actually good though. That's actually accurate. That's actually accurate with Oryx. Yeah. Salute.
You see Oryx be badass, and then Savathun is just Loki. It's the trickster god that we never get to see.
In defense of Savathun, and you're absolutely right. I mean, they haven't done enough, I felt, to truly build a shout out to Gam in the chat, riding for Savathun. It's gonna be interesting, satisfied when we finally get her in Witch Queen, though. They've been building her since taking it. True.
Yeah.
What was the strike, E, that they brought in this last one? I don't know if it was a PlayStation exclusive. Now they brought it over to PC.
Core?
Festering Core. I felt I learned more when Eris jumped in on the transmission, and was really talking about her deceptive nature and the things that she tries to do to manipulate things and how we wouldn't know her move. Like, I felt
and
that
we're losing that strike.
Yeah.
I'm like, that one had a pretty short lifespan. That's sad.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah.
But,
I remember so that's my problem is like Destiny is I say this all the time on Fireteam Chat. It's one of the best and 10 of the worst games I've ever played. And
you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Like the problem with Destiny storytelling is that they have so much good material to work with and they don't use a whole lot of it. And Savathun is absolutely one of those areas, in my opinion, where they can do a better job. And I'm really hoping that over this next year, they'll take some time to sort of carve her out, because I have a feeling she's going to die in a year, right? Like she's going to die in the raid or at the end of the story in a year, and that'll be over. And maybe they're wrapping up Destiny because the year after that is Lightfall, and who knows, what that's going to mean for the Destiny world. But I just hope we get payoff. I really hope there's a plan. I feel like there isn't a plan in Destiny storytelling, and they're kind of just winging it. And they do a really good job if they are winging it. But this is one of those things where you almost have to have like, it's like that scene in The Last Crusade where Indy has to take that first step.
Yep.
Across the platform.
Absolutely.
Right. It's a leap of faith of like, God, I hope that I'm not wasting these 6 years I've been playing Destiny and learning so much about it through the Grimoire. And I really hope that there's some payoff here. Absolutely. And I mean, Bungie's a company. If there's any company to rise to the challenge, it's Bungie.
Oh, it's Bungie. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I'm with you. Is like, we have Witch Queen setting up potential of Savathun. You have Lightfall, and we've got these like darkness powers coming on. I'm like, you're putting a whole lot of cool stuff in all of our heads that could be real. Please do something. Like you have Mara Sov, like she's queen with her own ascendant realm as well, of like her brother who's here. You got Petra, like just that section alone between Mara, Eris, and Savathun, with what's going on with those three and that weird triangle. And then you've also got, why can I not remember the single sock lady? Emissary.
Oh, Emissary, yeah.
The Emissary and all of the nine, like
the nine, Jesus. Yeah.
He got me on the one side, or like she's like, it's like she's got one different colored foot. So.
Facts.
That's funny.
So you said, I guess
the nine or another. I was going to say the nine or another thing where like they're in the game explicitly, and most people have no idea what they are. I know because I've looked up the Grimoire and done a bunch of research, because I was like, what the hell are the nine? And then they did the dungeon recently.
Right.
And the whole thing was, finally figure out who the nine are. And you have no idea who the nine are still.
Zero.
If you haven't read the Grimoire. So
Zero.
It didn't make any sense.
So just real quick, just to recap, we're going to finish up the raid thing. Again, so you got Vault, we got King. Oh, shout out to Ricardo, who actually made a good point about Vault. He was like, he strongly believes Destiny wouldn't be where Destiny was if that experience didn't happen. I actually tend to agree with him.
100%
agree with him.
Yeah, that'll give any. Yeah, it's like that did, because Destiny was like, "What are we doing?" And then bam, that like changed the idea for everybody.
Forever 29s.
Oh, so much, because I was waiting on my helm.
I was a Forever 29. I never got the boots for the Titan from that raid. Never, ever in Destiny, and I did it every single week.
Wow.
I was one of those guys where the drop rate just didn't work out for me. But that whole idea of being a Forever 29 and reaching max power and the chase for it and the aspiration, that wouldn't exist without Vault of Glass, because the end game was Vault of Glass. Yep. At the end of the day. Back then there was no trials, there were no other raids. That was the end game. So that was that. King's Fall, for me, that raid is sort of mediocre. It's mediocre in parts, but on the whole, it's really solid. It's all boss fights. It's like boss rush, you're just fighting boss after boss, and they all look cool.
Yes.
And they all have
unique.
They all have dope armor. And I mean, the ogre is whatever, but at least the ogre looks cool. He's got that cool spawn animation. Right? But for me, I day one that raid. I worked so hard to be one of the first people to beat that raid.
We're gonna have that discussion too. Continue. Later, continue.
I know you're gonna say the 9. There's celestial bodies, dude. It does. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, keep asking.
King's Fall is when that moment where he came up.
Oh,
the final boss.
So epic.
That was like, okay, this is awesome. And it made the entire journey worth it, because I was banging my head against the wall for like 14 hours before we got to the final boss encounter where Oryx actually came out. And I just remember I had not been watching other streams. I had not been cheating at all. And when I saw it, I just stood there for the entire first wipe. I was just standing there looking at him like, what the hell? And one of my teammates just, you could hear him take off his headset and screaming from another room. Like he was just running around his house like, and you just hear that in the background. That was great. And then
gotta say he's the best boss.
Yeah, so that's number 2 for me. And then Wrath of the Machines is number 3 because it has the single best encounter in any raid. Which one? Is the Siege Engine.
Siege Engine! Shout out! No one ever talks about Siege Engine.
That might be a first.
Siege Engine is the best encounter in any raid. It is super fun. It's very unique. It is unlike any other encounter in any raid.
Absolutely.
And it has the world's best ending, which is you just ride it to hell. Like you take it over and then you just sort of, it's so metal, man. It's such a good encounter. I remember getting to that point on day one. I day one to that raid as well. And getting up to that point was really demoralizing. It was like, I
think that's about where I got to as well. And it was just like, it was totally different for me as well. It's like first time was just like, the hell are we doing?
What's my man name? What's my man? Shout out to Meeksis, the one that always messes it up, the falling that does. So you gotta get him before he does something with the injured parts and all that stuff. It'll be like Meeksis did this, and I'm like, what? The game always tells you in the corner. I'm like, shout out to him. But yeah, that was a unique encounter. And the engine parts and then moving around. Yeah, that was very, very
just
cool.
the fact that you take over the boss and then you like use it to kill all the bad guys and then drive it off a cliff. Like I remember when we got through that encounter, it reinvigorated all of us. Like the whole party was sort of getting fatigued. And we got to that point and we were just like, all right, that was so cool. Not only am I ready for the rest of this raid, but I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to play that again now, not having to figure out how to do it. That was just so great.
Absolutely. Salute, man. Tremendous history, man. The boy's certified, The boy's certified, man.
Oh, yeah. No, that's pretty epic right there. I mean,
I think he's qualified. I think he's qualified to review Destiny 5.
Oh, yeah? You think so? A little bit. I'll give him the check mark of compliance there.
Yes. Doing well. Doing quite well. So what's going on in the world of Destiny, man?
Nothing major. Next gen for starters, because, speaking of a guy who works in the games industry now, this man is potentially going to dodge some of it, but be around the chaos that is the next gen launch.
That's right.
We got a little preview before, but we actually finally got confirmation of what we're going to get in the next generation of Destiny. So for Series X and PS5, we've got 4K 60, which everybody's been waiting on. And I think more important, people could have been playing on a peanut or like with, blinders on, but they got the field of view slider. I think that's probably what everybody is the most excited about. They could be like, you can give me 1440, 240 hertz. I don't care, but give me the field of view. I think is what everybody on console has been waiting for. Faster load times, cross-gen, all that stuff's good. Series S is going to be 1080, 60, same stuff with field of view. I think the field of view is the one that I've seen more people lose their mind about. So curious for you guys,
same here. If
you are pumped, excited, do you think, are they missing anything for next gen? What are you guys looking at?
I think this is awesome. I sort of wonder if some of the consoles could do more than 60 FPS, especially if they were in a performance mode where they were 1080. I would like to be able to make that decision. I mean, I think Destin plays in 1440 or 1080 or something. He does not play in 4K so that he can play at 120 FPS. Yes. I think console players should be able to have that option now that they have the power to do it. Before it was sort of like they're just trying to get to 30. They don't have the privilege to low res. You're not going to lower it to 720p so that you can run a few extra frames. But yeah, so I think that would be great. But I think the real the lead that is being buried in all of this is how good it's going to be for people who buy the Series S, because honestly, playing in 1080p, I think it's something like 70% of gamers do not have a 4K display.
Factual.
And the fact that you can play at 1080p at 60 FPS with FOV sliders, which is pretty much in the past only been a PC specific feature ever. I think it's great, man. For $300 you can play a really, really high-end version of Destiny, and you could probably max out the TV that you have, because realistically, monitors running more than 60 FPS is pretty rare.
Right.
Or it's pretty hard to get. TVs, it's like unheard of. Like the TVs that can do 4K 120 FPS are like few and far between.
Like
unless
three of them right now.
Yeah, there's like 3
Shout out to my
TVs ever,
CX,
and I
though.
have one.
Shout out to my
He
CX.
has one.
Yeah, so you've got one too?
Yeah, you got that LG CX, brother.
Cognito does. Yeah.
Nice.
I just joined the club.
Yeah.
Just joined the club.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if Travis, you finished, I didn't know if you're still going.
That's it. I'm done. I'm
okay.
excited for this. I think it's great. FOV slider is absolutely the biggest of the things to be happy about.
Yeah, man, this is tremendous. I mean, let's just get it. I'm gonna get the negative out the way first. Waking up, obviously, the vampire to the news. The first thing that hit me was December 8th. So, for me, I'll give you the history. Is that as a console guy, that's just my history. I'm born and raised. I'm a controller guy. You know what I'm saying? That's just what I do. But the thing that hit me, I had it all mentally prepared. Travis. I was like, yo, Series X drops. Beyond Light. Everyone's laughing at the Xbox community, like, oh, Xbox doesn't have any exclusives. I'm like, Destiny's there at launch. I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
On Game Pass.
I'm like, oh, it was like the coronation. Cognito's coming home. I'm telling my whole Xbox community,
And then you slipped on the banana peel on the way up.
Yeah, I'm like, November 10th, we there, baby. Because I told my clan, I was like, look, when E tempted me to the darkness last year,
I'm not sorry.
That evil PC life, I was corrupted. Those frames, that field of view. I was like, I'm not doing 30 frames ever again.
No.
I just can't. And it just like playing it is like playing in molasses. And I'm just like, I can't do it. So I've been over here on PC. 80% of my clan still on Xbox. I formed, the clan still exists, but there's about 20% of us over here. So this was my excited time. So to see it, the December 8th did hit me. I was like, damn, I gotta wait a month. And I was really looking forward to showcasing the Series X and my TV and all this other stuff. But when I read the details and I saw field of view, I'll be real with you, E, I never thought they would do it. Because in my opinion,
I was like, I wasn't sure.
Console guys have always been, and I don't mean disrespectful, they've always been babied. Like, it's always like, we're not going to give you these extensive features. We don't want to confuse you. Last gen, we got a frame rate and a performance mode, which was big for the next generation console refreshes. Yep. But I never knew that would happen, because my thing is, I was willing to accept no field. I was telling my guys, look, don't get your hopes up too high for FOV. Look, we're going to have NVMe drives. You're going to be loading into the strikes and the raids all fast. You ain't going to be in orbit chilling. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have that 60 frames. You're going to understand why I left you. Once you see 60, you're going to understand. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is a different game. Cog, I get it now. I get it. But to have the FOV, there's so many now of my PC guys that were like, yo, I'd come over there, but if there ain't no FOV, Cog, I'm not going to the Xbox. You know what I'm saying, over there. So to see this is cool. And to me, that's worth the wait. That's worth the wait. I'm willing to say, so yes, clan, I'll be on PC for another month. I'll be here. You know what I'm saying? I'll be rooting you guys on. You know what I'm saying? Well, but once y'all bring that 60 and that FOV, bam, your man right back home. So, but this was tremendous. Salute to them. And like you said, Travis, Series S, man. I mean, 1080p 60, like you said, a lot of people don't have 4K monitors. For $300, you get in the Game Pass, and they shout out to PlayStation 5, 4K 60 too. So everything's going, they're getting FOV, everything is lit. Like, this is such a cool thing. And then obviously cross-generational, the saves, Xbox playing with Xbox guy, that's going to be big. I
have some questions about the cross-generational thing, which are... right now I have an Xbox One X, and when I load into a strike, I hang out for 90 seconds while I wait for the guy with an OG Xbox One to load in. And I know on PC, you have to do that as well. If people have older CPUs, it takes them long, or no, it's drives, right? Yeah,
usually like
whatever it is.
Old drives, yeah.
Yeah, old drives that takes them a while to get in. Then I'm wondering how wide that gap's going to get. If you're on a Series X versus an OG Xbox, like that is a very different experience. And
you're like, did you see that guy? I literally can't see him. He's not even on the screen.
for matchmaking, there has to be, I hope, there has to be some priority given to people that are on the next gen platform versus the old one, because I see that being really troubling if we're doing that. And then also having 60 FPS in Crucible over somebody who's on the Xbox One, that's going to be nasty, because I don't know anybody on PC who plays Crucible at any competitive level who has a 30 FPS computer running fewer than 60 frames. That's pretty rare. So I could see that being, and thankfully it works in my favor. I mean, I've got my Series X pre-ordered. It's going to be here year one, so I'm definitely going to be dunking on some people who are in 30 FPS. But it just seems pretty toxic.
I'll say this. Okay,
no, you go.
I was going to say real quick, and I'll let you go, is that I'm actually surprised. Another reason why, too, is that, again, console is such a controlled space, right? And one of the biggest fears that we got last gen, we were like, would these mid-generation refreshes even allow that frame disparity from a competitive standpoint? And I remember there were times where Bungie was questioned, Microsoft was questioned, a lot of people were questioning, like, would you allow a 60 frames guy go against 30 frames guy and all that stuff? So to me, this is them full on. Like, I was surprised how bold this move is. Like, yo, we're allowing all these different ecosystems to intermingle, and hey, it is what it is kind of thing. So selfishly, I don't mind, because I already know what side I'm on, but it is a departure from the safe nature of console. Consoles traditionally tend to shy away from this, and this is them really kind of embracing, especially with FOV. But yeah, I'm gonna let you know. I know you got lots to say.
No, I mean, that's like a huge piece of this is you've got people that are used to this on PC, because I mean, you've got people that are buying 360 hertz monitors for 1080p games and stuff like CS:GO versus like, hey, what's CS:GO? Let me turn it on. And they like can't even blink fast enough to get killed. So PC is used to that, and as you said, console is. You buy a typically set package and not a whole lot of options in there. Now, as you said, the next generation gives you the switch of performance and things. Now they are going to have potentially like 3 modes. I think for me, one of the biggest ones for the 2 powerful consoles, Series X and PS5, they're both going to be powerful. They're doing 4K 60. I would love to have seen them do like either 1440 120 or 120, like, because there's some people who are like, hey, if I can buy a monitor, and it's like, it's a kid in a room, but maybe he is able to get like 1080p monitors at high refresh rates. They're not that expensive at this point, so the entry at that level isn't terrible. Like, you try and go 4K 144 hertz, you may as well buy a new car. But like, there's some, like, you may as well buy a TV, honestly, with some of those. That's almost the same price. But if you're going to go 1080p and you're like, I just want the fast refresh rate, it'd be nice to be like, hey, I got the PS5, but I can go, 144 hertz or whatever. That's the piece that I would like to see them go between and give the option for. I don't know if that's later to give more resolution choices, but I mean, the field of view is a big one, but the frame rate, I think some people would happily be like, I don't need to see 4K if I can get the faster refresh rate. There's a lot of people who would love to see that one. And then, as you also said as well, Travis, you said like the loading times, you're going, old Xbox One, regular PS4 spinning hard drive to NVMe next gen. What is, and then also as like the field of view slider. And as literally, I'm like, hey, I can see this much. There's a guy over here. Where? And the guy's like, the one has to turn just to see him, much less like, yeah, he's over there on my right. I got him. It's like the communication almost in a raid and even in PvE activities. It's like, you're going to be able to pull some of those people through, but that's not going to be the optimal way to play. And it's like, they're really going to start to potentially see here, there's going to be videos comparing the differences of like, what are you missing out on if you don't have a new console? This, and you're just like, how much more you can see and stuff is going to be very interesting. I'll be curious to see comparisons between really old consoles and the brand new ones, like right next to each other. And it's just going to be like, yeah, like somebody rubbed wax on your screen or something. Like, it's going to be pretty terrible.
That Vaseline. That Vaseline.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that, look, I'm not a developer. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to disrespect Bungie, but I am, in my heart, I would assume if we're going to say the PlayStation 5 is the equivalent of maybe a 2060 Super and the Xbox Series X is the equivalent of a 2080, you know what I'm saying? Then
really got to get that Xbox in there, don't you? Go for it.
No, I mean, I'm not even trying to console. No, serious. I'm not even trying to console. Like, I'm just saying like, I'm just saying like one would think, right, that both of them could do a 1440p 120 hertz kind of joint. And I think this is my opinion. So forgive me, Bungie, if this is how I feel of Bungie being safe and saying, look, we're going to cap you here. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe later down the road we revisit, because the same reason why I'm saying this is because in my opinion, I would have sworn the Xbox One X would have been able to do the 60 frames on the mid-gen refresh. And the fact And the fact that the Series X on launch on November 10th, because we all know with the brute forcing that the Series X is doing right now with back compat, is forcing games with unlockable frame rates to get to higher frame rates. So to me, that shows me, I'm again inferring, I'm not a developer, that Bungie is locking frame rates for stability standpoint. Thus, when you get a Series X, you play Beyond Light, you're not going over 30 frames. We know the Series X can do that game more than 30 frames. So that's why I feel this is, again, Daddy Bungie kind of putting that cap, not wanting to mess around with things on the stability standpoint to go over frame rates. Because I, too, like E-Sin, would love a 120 frames, 1440 or 1080p mode if possible. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That would be another cool option to give gamers. But don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I'm happy about what's going on. We're getting our field of view. But there's just something I was thinking about when he was talking.
Yeah, and that's just one of those maybe as more TVs. Like right now, there's not a lot of TVs doing 4K 120 hertz, but some are doing the 120 hertz at lower resolutions. But again, as one of you guys said, it's not common. As that becomes more of an adoption thing, and they may look at statistics of Steam and see how many people have those. It's like when those numbers start climbing up that, higher refresh rate displays and everything are in more people's hands, they might put the development time into it for something like, say, Witch Queen, if it's made a pretty more adoption rate over the course of the next year. Right now, it just may not be there.
Yeah, I think that's actually exactly what's happening. I think it's not Bungie saying, hey, we want to control what you're doing, or we want to cap our game lower than what your console can do. I think it has more to do with creating an ecosystem that isn't confusing for console gamers, because console gamers, and I count myself among this because I hate fiddling with my PC. I have to do it a lot. I hate we don't want to have to deal with that stuff. That's why we're on console. And so if you try to run a game at 120 FPS and your console says you can do it, but your TV isn't having it, the frames drop. I've done that on PC, and it runs at like 24 frames per second or something like that when it's plugged into a monitor that can't display it. People who play on Xbox and PlayStation, they do not play on monitors by and large. Correct. And so TVs that exist that can run more than 60 frames are pretty rare. And I think that, And I think that enabling it in a way where it was user friendly to say, hey, your TV doesn't support more than 60 FPS, we need to go back. I think that's the real problem. I think
agree.
They're sort of waiting for we're kind of waiting for TVs to catch up with what our displays can now do, like our Xboxes, our PlayStations. So.
Yeah, valid point. And to your point, which you're absolutely right, is that they have to listen, Bungie, we know they look at their data. Realistically, who really, besides me and a few others, who really has that setup? The majority of console gamers don't have that setup. So to put the resources into that mode at this point, when it's early in the gen, definitely answers that question. So I agree with your assessment.
I mean, Series S is potentially the one, as everybody kind of like, even I see Paris, he's always talking about the Series S as the dark horse of the consoles, because it's like, that's the one that a lot of people are going to get. That's not the big beefy one going for everything. That's the one people just want to get 1080p 60 for their normal TVs. And that's what it may be for a little while. 2 or 3 years from now, when things start to really get adapting, some of that adoption gets higher, maybe a different picture. Whatever happens after Lightfall, that may be where we're going like, okay, all TVs do all crazy things. Now let's talk.
Good point. Yeah. No, you're right, Travis. Open my eyes,
Travis. But outside of that, that's a big one. Of course, we knew the TWAB was coming. And what was the one thing everybody was waiting on? When the hell are we going to get to Raid? And we finally got to figure it out. Oh, you finally got an answer. And that's like one of the biggest things. So for one...
And it's a great answer.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty damn good answer. Definitely one more favorable from what I was seeing some in the past. So I'm glad we're kind of at this point. But yeah, Saturday, November 21st, 10 a.m. Pacific. That is the world's first raid date. A couple things we'll know. Contest mode will cap all players at 20 below power for each encounter for 24 hours. Kind of figured contest would be there. Artifact power will be disabled during contest mode. That's a big point of discussion we'll get to in a minute. And then 1230 power is your team's goal to be at the top cap for all the encounters. So if you get to 1230, theoretically, you would have as much level advantage as you can for every single encounter. Anything beyond 1230, even for the final fight, you're going to get no benefits out of it. So starting there, the dates and just the details about it. Thoughts, opinions? Cognito or Travis? Travis has we got a hand raise. Oh, Travis, you got it.
I like this a lot. That's my hand raise because I'm so happy with what they're doing. So a few things here. I think we can all agree, because I'm sure some of you guys have at one point in your Destiny life tried to at least complete the raid on the first day, right? The worst part of that experience is not the raid itself, even though that can be really painful. It's the process leading up to it, where you have to kill yourself to get to the power that you need to actually play the raid.
100%.
It's bad. It's not fun. Nobody enjoys it. It's not. And then the people who exploit get rewarded by getting more power and going to the raid at an unfair level. And it's just always unpleasant. And so we're talking about this on Fireteam Chat, which streaming now on IGN.
It's live. Go watch that show after this one. Stay here.
After this
finish
one,
this, then go.
Smooth with it. Yeah. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, advertise.
But yeah, what we talked about was like last week. We said, what would be your ideal situation? Don't make the power crazy. Just cap how much you can bring with you, like they've been doing in Grandmaster Nightfalls. They did that, right? Release it well after the game comes out, at least a week, so that we don't have to do that sprint as crazily as we've had to in the past, and we can start talking about who our teams are going to be and kind of strategizing, that sort of thing. They did that. As somebody who's reviewing the game, I reviewed Shadowkeep, and I had 3 days to get raid ready, and I had to write my review the 4th day. That is not fun. It is not healthy. And I think for those of us who the raid is for, right? The raid is only played by what, like 5% of the community, I think they said. And that those people are the people who are going to take time off work and full commit. And so I think the fact that you maybe don't have to do that now is awesome. And, you know, I'm going to get some more time to capture footage and do more stuff for my review. And then that final Saturday, that'll be my last day. I'll beat the raid, or at least get to the final encounter so I can see all the content. And then I'll be off to the races and be able to write. And so for me personally, it's great. I think for the community, it's great. Most importantly, it gets rid of that terrible pre-raid grind that just has never gone smoothly, in my opinion. So, and then also Saturday mornings, I mean,
perfect.
That's like the chef's kiss. That's the cherry on top of this amazing new Sunday. Yep. So this is all great.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I think, you know, I know this is a point of contention, you know, a lot of hot topic on Twitter with E and others. Shout out to Attic. But yeah, look, man, I think this is great. I think, you know, the following week is more than enough time. I think Saturday is perfect because, again, you know, most people got to work, you know, to do something during that time. I always felt was a little awkward. So I love that decision. Obviously, contest rules are there. And again, to ease defense, because I know he's on the side of pushing things back, you know, I do agree with him in the first week is too much because you're just now experienced. You're almost speedballing through. And sometimes you don't get to appreciate the meal, whether it be the campaign, and you're just so light heavy, right? You just, you know, light, whatever. And I think sometimes it is a bit much that first week. So I think this, in my opinion, should be the cadence going forward. You know what I'm saying? Not the first week of release. You get to that second reset. And then even think about that. Friday's always a trials day. Cause I think like you used to have like trials and the raid on the same day. You know what I'm saying? You know, everyone's going to do the world first, but I think that's the perfect spot. The only thing I want to defend the hardcore raider part, which I'm in the defense of this, you know, kind of 2-week cadence as opposed to pushing it out even further, is that we have to admit contest mode is a big thing for Bungie. You know what I'm saying? They get all eyes on the game. It blows up Twitch from an engagement standpoint. And it's just cool. You know what I'm saying? Just to, you know, people get the raid jackets, you get your championship belt. And, you know, I remember watching, you know, the, the Last Wish, raid, you know, finals. That was pretty awesome, that kind of stuff. And it's really cool to see. Obviously, you know, I feel contest mode is the ultimate, you know, nullifier to keep things balanced. They're letting us know, hey, 12:30, this is what it's going to be, you know, and from that point on. So we have to remember this, my last point. This is for the hardcore also, right? So we have to respect the people who want to put in that work and they want to know life if they get the maximum power cap to try to achieve this goal. And the only counter argument I say is for people who don't want it to be 2 weeks is that, you don't have to raid right then in the beginning. Like, you could wait. Like, you don't, this is for the world's first guys. Like, these are for listen, I've tried. I'm there every day one, but I ain't that talented and I ain't got enough, but I'm there, you know what I'm saying? But my team, we'll get to a certain, usually about a second or third encounter usually breaks us. And then we're like, all right, you can't figure this out. We're going to have to take two before people start fighting with each other. But at the end of the day, this is a cool, prestigious thing. And I like to see the hardcore community get behind it. And yeah, listen, I think I love this date, man. I really do. Saturday, a week after, I'm all for it. So I'll give it to E because I know this is a hot button topic for him.
No, it wasn't for me, or at least I didn't think it was going to be until my Twitter. Yeah, until something happened on Twitter yesterday. I won't get into all that. But no, it was like, for me, somebody did point out, like, honestly, for me, if it was one more Saturday, granted, that's Thanksgiving, so that if the holiday wasn't there, but if this was a September release, but if it was one more Saturday, still would be fine with me. Because now for somebody like you, like reviewing a game, I could see like you're like kind of need to put a bow on the very end of this thing. So depending on when that comes out, you might have to do, that's where you guys would be like, well, here's all the content. I played through most of it. We're waiting for the raid for like 3 weeks. Do you do one of your like review in progress or anything like that, pending raid type thing? I mean, I can see some of those, but something like Division 2, when they tried to release theirs, I don't even remember how long after that came out that raid finally came out. That was way too long. So obviously that's too long. But also, as you guys have said, the 3 to 4 day crazy grind, don't sleep, 72 hours of just absolute insanity. In my mind, that's not fun for anybody. And for me, whether it's like 11 days or 18 days for like the next Saturday, if it's not Thanksgiving, since that's a holiday, that would be the point where for me, it allows more people to get to the grind. And it allows more people to, if they have full-time jobs, they play in the evenings, they get a couple hours, they get more time on the weekends. That's their time to really kind of put in the heavy grinding, even if they're going to do it. That just gives more people a chance to get into even a day one race blind. Because a lot of people, if you pay attention to the Destiny community, it's hard to see some things in a blind state if they don't see it on the first day. But if they're not able to get into it because they have a busy world, but one more week helps them, contest modifier helps a ton, because you could be, 1260 power level going in like 3 weeks later, but everybody's still going to be at that same level when you jump into the raid. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like to me, that's not, it doesn't need to be 2 months, because then you do kind of lose some relevancy in their seasons. But for me, it was like, I put a poll on Twitter. It's like, I don't have the biggest audience, but of 175 votes, 90% of the people said anywhere from 7 to like 18 to 30 days. Like, there was only about 10% of people that said 3 to 4 days. Right. So it doesn't look like a decent majority are like, I want a little time. For one, like Bungie always gives us a good amount of content, but we also don't get to typically enjoy it because it is burn through it as fast as you can so you can get to the raid. And then you're like, what happened to the story? I have no idea, because I wasn't paying attention. I hit skip as fast as I can. Like, and that's not fun to go through that and be like, what happened? I think I know, but I'll probably go play it on my second character when I actually pay attention to the story, as opposed to burning through strikes over and over and stuff like that. Now you might be able to enjoy it more, switch between a couple if you're going for leveling. The contest was one of the better things that I think they put in, and I'll be kind of curious how the artifact power being disabled plays out, since that's not going to give you any benefit. I wonder how hard it's actually going to be able to get up there, because that's one for the no-lifers. That's the one that would be your advantage. I say no-lifers, but I mean in 11 days at some point you are going to sleep in there. But as like artifact power, it's like now it is truly, you probably not. He's going to make notes and write and everything else. But like now you truly are on like powerfuls and pinnacles and stuff of that. It's honestly weird to me they disabled it completely. If they gave you a cap that you could earn, like, hey, here's this, we have an idea how many powerfuls you'll probably get in 11 days. You play a decent amount, we'll give you 10 on artifact, anything beyond. But the fact that it's not there to help like bad RNG on some people's rolls, I guess, and maybe in 11 days it's going to be fine if if it's the powerful cap is 1200 and the pinnacle, all that stuff, if it's similar. I'm still just kind of curious how everything kind of plays out. But believe me, the date, I'm good. It's 11 days. If it was 18 and Thanksgiving wasn't there, I could see it probably going either way. And then for contest mode, that's the one that just kind of, it levels the playing field. So no matter how much you get to play in those 11 days, if you can get in there and you've got enough power, somebody might have more expertise and more aspects and fragments on their stasis subclasses and stuff like that, but they're still able to jump in. So I'm good with this one. 2 to 3 weeks sounds pretty good at this point. Just no longer that 3 to 4, because I'm with you. We want somewhat of a decent schedule.
Yeah, 3 to 4 days. I mean, definitely was that was rough. You know what I'm saying? I think also we got to take into account that this season was delayed also, right? So we have to see the cadence of when arrivals, not arrival, but Beyond Light, this when it ends, right? Is it, one would assume they're going to keep the normal cadence, which means, another condensing of this season. And if that's the case, another reason as to why we can't really push it out too far, the raid anyway. So also the other thing we're not thinking about is this, I know a big fear about pushing it out is, we're rushing through. But if you remember with, Forsaken and stuff, the raid and stuff was also contingent with the Dreaming City. So who knows if they have some story beat in conjunction with it, right? And there's a lot of things that sometimes get revealed later. We didn't even know about the Dreaming City when Forsaken. We just thought it was the Barrens and we were in Tangle Shore, Avenge Cave.
Well, and Forsaken was a 10-day release. That was the nice thing about it.
Right.
Because it wasn't the 3-day, and I missed that. So
that's why I have faith in this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna freak out. You know what I'm saying? Because my thing is like, shout out to Cactus. He's got a good video right now. And it's been out for a while. Just in reference to how Bungie does their price structure every expansion, right? And I believe like Rise and Iron was like maybe $30 or whatever, and it was a little less or whatever, and maybe Shadowkeep I think fell in that thing. But Forsaken was that premium price, if y'all remember, right? Beyond Light is hitting that price. And Bungie, in my opinion, does a fair estimation of value. So I think there's a lot of stuff we still don't know. I know me and you, E, are definitely concerned, like all they showing is stasis powers. And even me, Travis, we talked about it. Like, we hope that's just not it and there's more meat, right?
Yeah.
But I think, again, shout out to Kag, I think it was, the way you described it, I think the Deep Stone Crypt, I just naturally assumed was the specific raid area and that's it. We just go there, boom.
Yeah.
And he's alluding that might be a whole... I don't want to say like a Dreaming City thing. That might be an area, and the raid also is in part of that, but that could be its own area in itself. So I'm waiting to see how things play out, and I think value sometimes equates to content with Bungie. Yeah. So I'm curious to see, we may have some secrets here. So there's no need to hold on and necessarily drag this thing out because we may have stuff cooking. So that's what
I think you might be right because I could be wrong about this. I haven't kept up on the Grimoire in like a year, but if I'm not mistaken, the Deepstone Crypt is not on Europa. It's supposed to be on some other moon or something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, if you're doing the raid, they're either going to have some way for you to get there, or they're just going to retcon it and change its location because everything in the Grimoire is a rumor. It could not be true.
Can't trust them.
I mean, that's what they said. I mean, everything's like it's like legends, right? So it doesn't have to be canon. It's canon until they say it isn't.
Sounds like George Lucas.
Yeah, they're like George Lucas, exactly. Borrow from greatness, McClunky. Full circle.
Full circle, baby.
But yeah. I could absolutely see the Deepstone Crypt being attached to its own traversable area. That to me would be best case scenario. More likely situation is that Earth is somehow the second location, and that we get, because we're going back to the Cosmodrome, and I could see that having a lot of story implications in the campaign and also the content that follows the campaign. So there might be some tie-ins there or something. We'll see where they actually go with it. But I would be very shocked because my impression, I think we talked about this when you were on Fireteam Chat, Cog, which is that like my impression is that this one is going to be a little bit light and that they're kind of prepping us for, this is like the Rise of Iron, right? And they're prepping us for the Witch Queen. And I think that's going to be the one that really changes things. So I really hope that I'm wrong. But we'll see.
We'll see, man.
I'm very excited, though.
Yeah, I was like, I'm with your boat. It's like, I know they've said Cosmodrome's like the second destination. They're going to flesh it out for year 4, if I can get all these numbers right. And that's, I think, what they remember. They were saying, like, we're going to have the new light kind of experience on the Cosmodrome. And then as the seasons progress, they said they'd be fleshing out Cosmodrome. I've also heard rumors, or somebody said it officially, and I can never remember, like, stasis on Europa is eventually going to be coming to other enemy races over the course of, like, year 4 as well, potentially us seeing it in different places. So the fact that the overall, like, entire director could see more stasis and changes in Cosmodrome could get, that may be the way they drag it out. But I was like, I'm with you guys. If I could get the giant surprise of Deepstone Crypt, Enceladus is that, like, baby extra destination, something else is like that one major secret that we don't know.
That's what I was about to say. Because
I was just going to say, theoretically, like, Europa's been developed for what, 6 years now? It's been like year 1. So, I mean, not saying like it was done then and they're like, oh, we finally put it in the game. No, they hammered this thing home for sure now, but they had a framework to work with and they've been building on it for a long time. So they finally, like, polished it. It's like, well, Cosmodrome, that got some polish. Europa was kind of built. Did they have time for something else? And that's one of those where, like, I don't want to get expectations too high, but man, that would be one of those surprises. You're like, that's the chef's kiss for me. Like, that's the surprise on that one. If they can sneak something like that in.
Raise them, because I agree with you, because listen, they've been sitting on these assets. We've heard about Europa for so long. You know what I'm saying? So I firmly agree. And the thing is this too, I got to give E a little, I got to tweak him a little bit right here, bother him right now.
That's normal.
King. You are the king of complaining. They tell us too much in the trailers. They killed Kane.
I totally will claim that 100%.
Not giving you, and you're like, no, I'm worried because I don't know if there's going to be enough content.
No,
see?
But I will fully claim that. I will be like, hey, I don't want them to hand me an exotic. I don't want them to show me all the exotics in a trailer before we actually get the guns. Now they're fighting data miners. That's a different issue. But I will claim that 100%. But on the other side, like, it's also the surprises are good. And but again, just kind of the feeling of, like, COVID being a thing. Like, they've mentioned, like, armor's not really changing. Yeah, we're getting subclasses, which Forcada was like, we get new subclasses, we get fragments, we get aspects, we get stasis weapons, potentially, and shields on enemies. So that's like a shift in the game. But as for destinations, like, those are just surprises. But again, I'm kind of with Travis, where I was like, I still have this weird feeling, like, gnawing in the back of my head that this is going to be smaller than I would like, and I can't quite put a pin on why. But again,
you know why? Because I've thought about this. This is why. It's because in the past, anytime a big DLC is coming out, we all felt it, and Bungie was not afraid to just promote the hell out of it. Forsaken, night and day to what we're getting now. They promoted that so much. There is an important caveat here, though, which is that we haven't really gotten a taste of Bungie promoting itself without Activision, because Activision was its publisher, and Activision had the money for all the marketing and stuff. So it could be that this is there's no precedent for this, but we haven't really seen how Bungie behaves when they're marketing their own thing, and it's huge. How much are they willing to hide now that they're fully in control? Because I think in the past, Activision was like, no, you're showing that. Like, we're seeing as much of this as possible because we need to get people to buy this game. So I think that there's a chance that you and I, we're, like, being pessimistic because we are used to that cycle, and that this is new. I really hope that's the case, because if there's any reason to buy back your own IP to use it, it's to do something like this, to, like, delight your loyal fan base with something that they will never see coming. And I think that they have a really good opportunity to do that. I hope that's the case.
I got faith in Luke, man. That's
Me
my
too.
guy.
That guy's great.
That's my guy, man.
He's one of my boys. Yeah.
Dude, I've never had a chance to meet him. But
oh, you haven't? Oh, okay.
I've never met Luke, so salute to you. Like, that's my guy.
He's great.
Oh, he's awesome. And what you said resonated, because I remember during the Forsaken days and the Activision earnings call slander. Yeah. And I remember Luke got up and said, oh no, we are happy. We are impressed. We are not ashamed of what we did accomplish with Forsaken, because at that time, the rhetoric was financially it disappointed. It didn't live to expectation, according to, the big Activision. And he was like, yo, not over here. We're proud of what we did. And I'm like, oh no, Luke, don't get fired. At that time, I didn't know they were leaving, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know they had plans. I was like, oh no, Luke went against the suits. It's over. You know what I'm saying? But like, salute to him. They believe so much in the product. And look, man, listen, he knows his game. You know, him, and I don't want to make it just a shout to Noseworthy, right? Those two work in conjunction. Mark knows it together a lot. And I think we're gonna be in for a surprise, man. Big expansion. They never disappoint for the most part, man. You can, even if you didn't like Shadowkeep, you can't say it wasn't terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would say the fall expansion, we always get something. So stay tuned, man. Buckle up, have a little faith, man. The king is coming back, man. Coming back.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment on Shadowkeep. I reviewed it for IGN, gave it a 7.8, which in IGN lingo, back in the old grading system, was good, not great.
Right.
Almost great, not great though. Like it didn't really get there. So, and I still stand by that. Like all this time later, because I
feels about
fair.
right.
That's fair.
Yeah, I had some. I had
Almost
a lot of fun
great.
with
That should be on the box. Almost great.
Yeah, almost great. Like put that as the tag.
Y'all foul.
But yeah,
Almost.
Yeah, going back to Luke is like, I remember back in I'm lucky enough I've gotten to talk and interview a lot of the people at Bungie over the years, just hanging out at their office.
So
and
jealous.
Like the thing about Luke is back even before he was in a leadership position, he said his stated goal as somebody who worked at Bungie and had some influence was to make Destiny as much like an RPG as possible, because a lot of people forget that when Destiny 1 Vanilla came out, when Destiny 1 Vanilla came out, it was not like an RPG at all. Its menus were super limited. It did not have a whole lot of upgrade systems and stuff, and he sort of nerdified it. His brainchild with the Taken King, the thing that was like the thing that he drove home was the quest tab. That got added during the Taken King.
That was the amazing edit.
The quest tab changed everything. It completely changed the way that players interacted with the game. And I think, when Destiny 2 Vanilla came out, I remember it was way less nerdy. It was way less RPG-ish. They kind of sort of pulled it back. Yeah. And I remember I talked to Luke Smith. We were at this like.
Was the only time my faith was shaken. Continue.
Yeah.
That's my only time I was faith. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I had played it before it came out, and I remember I was talking to Luke at like a bar event that night, and I was like, "Hey, do you remember you told me that your goal is to make it more RPG-ish? What happened?" And this is before the game came out. I was like, what? Like what? Why is it like? Why did you take away the quest tab? The quest tab was not in Destiny 2 when it launched, which I thought was crazy, because I was like, Luke's in like a position of power now. How is the quest tab gone? That was like his thing.
What did he say?
And he told me. It was just too confusing, man. It was just like a lot of stuff. That was basically his answer. I wasn't recording him. I didn't write it down. I just remember that was like his sentiment was like, it was just overwhelming. It was a little bit much. And we're trying to like streamline it, make it simpler. And then he talked about that side tab that you hold the left trigger and it comes out on the menu. He talked about that. And I was just like, that's not the same thing. And you know it. Like you know RPG mechanics. That's not an RPG system. That's
he came from the World of Warcraft. Like that's where like a lot of his world came from. So for me, and Cognito probably will never be happier if I ever shut up about that game. But I mean, I played that thing for hours and hours and hours. I had 2 characters with like, over a month on each. So I was like, I spent plenty, and it's like Diablos and all those. Like I grew up through all of that in the same thing. So
tell me more about World of Warcraft.
Let me eat.
What my druid and what is the Wrath of the Lich King and all that stuff.
That's me. If you're a character in Mass Effect, I'm trying to romance. That's my dialogue option for you. Tell me more about the Justicars. I'd like to learn more about you.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love that. Good reference. That was dope.
But it's like that's when you say he wanted to make it more RPG like. And me, I'm sitting over here coming from. Whether it be Chrono Trigger or World of Warcraft or true RPGs. And like, for me, part of me is like, I'm kind of still waiting. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but I was like, if you say MMORPG and I play Destiny, I'm like, you're not there yet, in my opinion, because there's a long ways to go between stats, skill trees, all of those things that kind of go into it. It's still very much a shooter like armor, especially right now. Yeah, we're getting a 5th mod socket. which is a great thing. I'm not going to be mad about that. But again, armor overall, there's not a lot of like tie to the stats and everything. Mobility doesn't actually make you run faster, which just still blows my mind to this day. There are certain things when it comes to
that is
like,
very weird.
Yeah, like it literally even the text says makes you move faster. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Makes you walk faster and strafe faster, but does not make you sprint faster, which is still movement. So, so you have ability recharges, which are a separate thing anyway. But it's like, I mean, I'm always pictured like a Titan being tanky, like coming from an RPG build and a warrior being able to be up there and actually take the damage. And the bubble kind of gives a little bit of that, but that's not really. I can't take twice as much damage as the warlock who's crushing damage. That's one. So it's like, and I know
really doing this.
What?
Yeah.
You just got an exotic to give you an overshield. We really doing this? Continue.
I don't have
Listen, Titan mains, I tolerated both of y'all for a while now. Now we really doing this. Woe is Titan.
I cannot wait for my overshield to come back.
That's going to be nice.
Hey, but you know what? I was talking about this on Fireteam Chat because they were complaining about this too because they're dirty hunters and warlocks. Which is, they were like, oh yeah, Titans are going to get overshield. This isn't fair. I'm like, bro, they're giving everybody grenades that create walls. Our class ability is now useless. It's just a duplicate. Like you can see through it, but that's like it's so of course they have to give us a way to like trade our class ability in for something that other people don't have, right? They're giving hunters the ability to teleport to do the blink now. It's just like, to me, I mean, there's a lot of mixing going on, but I'm sort of, I'd challenge you, E, because I kind of think I don't want it to be World of Warcraft. I'm one of the guys I'm kind of like Cog, where World of Warcraft is a little too much for me. I'm afraid of it becoming like that. I don't want it to be like a really complicated.
Do you want the Destiny 1 like skill trees, for example, though? Would you like something closer to that?
I would like something closer to that. I think the gold standard for looter shooters is something like Borderlands 3 or Division, right? Like the Division 2 has a really good way of where you can build your own classes that are equipment based, and you can kind of be like, I'm going to spec into this type of this class, but I don't want it to be full WoW where there's just like a million things to think about and a 500 different currencies, and I'm spending chocolate strange coins to buy, all that stuff. I don't want
Robot
that.
agrees. He said too many currencies, it would be hell.
There's already too many currencies.
There's already too many, and we're about to get spin metal back.
I've talked about this before, but I think it's hilarious that there is now a joke currency that is a real currency inside Destiny. You can get it right now. A chocolate strange coin, which is a fake edible version of an old currency from D1 that nobody liked that existed, and now it's dead.
They're just trolling us. They're just trolling us.
It's a currency based on another currency. Like they've really gone places in this game. So I was like, I kind of. I hope that Destiny becomes the perfect middle ground between World of Warcraft and a traditional shooter that doesn't really give you any power over how you play. I think that's always been like the goal for Destiny, and I think that they've gotten close and never gotten there fully, and I'm excited to see if they can do it. But I do think they tend to get closer, at least since Destiny 2 Vanilla came out. They've gotten closer with each expansion and given us more freedom and more power. And what they're doing with classes, with the darkness ability, the fact that you're getting mods for your classes, it is going there. So if they can do something like that and make it moddable, but not so much that I'm killing chickens to get bone parts for my armor type that I want to transfuse. Like as long as I don't have to get there, I'll be happy.
I can get on board with that. That I can agree, because it's like World is. Like there are literally 50 hotkeys, I joke, but I was like, that's too much. But on the other side is like, when they say MMORPG, it was like, there's a few more pieces, maybe not all the way, but it's like, and as you said, the customizing of stasis, this is like their little baby brainchild. I'm honestly curious, as this is the first one, Solar Arc and Void, how are they going to consolidate, switch up? Because we have 3 different supers in each of those. Are they going to strip some of them out, keep the favorite one? Is Bubble going to be the Sentinel subclass, period? What about the shield that they like developed and put the time into? Is that going to be an aspect or fragment that actually makes those? So I'm like, I am so curious to see what this does into other stuff. I still wish stats had a little more weight to them for values of things, but that's still me. But I was like, I'm with you. Like the stasis stuff that I saw, and we talked about that when that came up. I was just like, this is, for one, a really cool thing, and I'm also very curious how they handle the rest of them, because we have 3 supers. and then they have one. So I'm kind of curious where that all coincides.
Yeah, no, I think you guys nailed it. I think you know, with Luke and these guys, you know, the fact that we finally got them to actually say, you know, it's an MMO, right?
Yeah.
Like they used to run from that. You know, whenever you'd get a soundbite, oh, we're not this, we're not that. So again, I think to Travis's point, it goes to them maybe now separating themselves from Activision, truly pushing the boundary on their vision. And I just think it's going to be incremental to ultimately what they want to get to. I don't know if it's going to be, what is it? Why do I always butcher the name? It's Scarlet Queen, Taken Queen. What's the name of the damn DLC with Savathun? I always butcher it.
The Witch Queen.
Oh, Witch Queen.
Witch Queen. I don't know why I butcher that. I can never say Witch Queen. You know what I'm saying? Is that the ultimate thing? You know, Lightfall. I think there is a trajectory. I think there is an endgame to where they want to go. And whether it be system-wise or incrementally, how they're going to do it. And Stasis may be one of the setting points. We're getting a content vault. We're getting a pseudo engine update in the same breath with stuff coming in with the Cosmodrome, this new version of it, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So I think it's incremental. They're doing as much as they can, I think, as an independent. It's funny, they're like so big studio, but I'm calling them indie. They're independent.
I know, it's bizarre,
it's
right?
bizarre. Like
they're
like
the first AAA indie studio.
Indie. Like it's so
bizarre.
weird. It's such a unique story with budget. But yeah, man, I think we'll get there. But I will fight for E on Armor. Well, E, I will go to war with him that Armor still needs that. I mean, they're the masters of weapons. They're the masters of the intricacies of that stuff and battle. But I really want them to dive a little bit more, you know what I'm saying, with Armor upgrades. And like you said, even if it's borrowing Division with the gear sets and speccing out.
Gear sets,
and,
man.
Oh, like they really, and then, you know, exotic armor, you know how I feel about the constant revisiting of the sandbox. Now, they did say, because of the new system, hopefully the sandbox revisit cadence is going to get updated quicker, right? Because I hate that only time we get an update is when the new expansion comes out, right? Like, we should have a cadence either in like a halfway point as well, where there's another update and we don't have to wait as long, you know what I mean? Because these things really excite me. It really gets you to go back, oh, wow, they changed this. Wow, they reworked this exotic. Cool. Like, I want to get in there. I want to see how this affects the sandbox kind of thing. So I think we're going to get there. It's just incremental. Remember, they're still on their own, you know, without that backing. So that's just my opinion on it. But we'll see.
Yeah. Somehow this all came from a raid discussion, but we fell off of that topic a little while ago.
Shout out to the MMO.
I was like, in
sets.
fairness to this professional that we've got joining us, there's one more piece that I do want to touch, and it is the fact that we've got the investigation and delayed announcement for the finish of the world's first. Mm-hmm. The fact that it's not going to be like, hey, we finished, they did it, cool. They're going to like do some data analysis, check if like you fired 6,000 times in 1 second. That doesn't seem to be right. Like,
yep.
I mean, this is straight up just because of cheating and mostly, would you guys imagine?
Yep.
Oh yeah. I mean,
because PC players are the worst.
Oh my, evil! I didn't go that far. He go hard. I'm usually reserved with my bullets.
The suit is off. I should say the suit is off.
The tie is off.
It's a Superman underneath.
You definitely should do that.
I think it is because of cheaters. Like, absolutely. There's nothing. To me, it's like a sacred ritual for Destiny players, right? Like, the world's first has been so cool, and everybody gets so excited and watches all these streams, and it would be really irritating if while these streams are going on, you figured out that there's some group of like hackers that just like gave themselves infinite health and got through it in 20 minutes or whatever. I don't think that that's gonna happen, because, to be honest, what serious raid team is dying because they're losing health, right? They're dying because they're not meeting the mechanical part of it, and they can't figure out the puzzle, and they all wipe at the same time. So in all likelihood, that's not going to be the case. But I do think it's good that they're thinking about this before we get a situation where they announce a world first and then they investigate and find out that it actually wasn't real. I think it's happening at exactly the right time. But yeah, they're doing it for the cheating thing, and I hope that there's I hope they do what they did with the Dreaming City raid, because the Last Wish, because I really liked that there was like a ceremony for it, right? Like, when they beat the raid, everybody logged back on to go see the the video play, and it changed the world and started off the 3-week cycle. I thought that was so cool, and I would love to see them do something or take this opportunity, since they're giving some distance to the raid, create some sort of ceremony or way to kind of like honor these or change the world when it happens. But yeah, I think it's for cheaters, but I hope they use it for something that is cool now that they have some kind of distance from it.
And that's why you literally gave the reason for why Last Wish is so sacred to me. Vault of Glass is always number one, but I never argue with anyone who puts Last Wish as 1 or 2 or whatever, because that raid, the way it ended, and just even the sequence of the Queen's Walk with the heart, like that extra, you thought Riven's over. I thought the raid was, don't get me started. You know how I feel about that music. Woo! It's amazing. So it's like, it's a part of it used in Gambit as well. But, just walking out with the heart, and then that extra segment, and then you see, I forgot the clan's name, that one. Was it Rezo? I forgot the name of the clan. But anyway,
Redeem,
dude, that was Redeem. Yeah, it was such a cool thing to see how emotional they were. Like, it really resonated. Like, the world's first is something amazing. So with this anti-cheat thing, I'm liking that they're going to take their time. They're going to wait. You know what I'm saying? And the other sad thing that we did learn, remember when all the dirtiness came out about the Destiny community and what was going on, some other stuff that was found out was other teams were getting DOSed and hacked during their world first attempt.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And that broke my heart when I found out that. I never knew that. I think it was one Goth team was affected.
Cathalion and Broman, they were getting DDoSed.
I had no idea. So to think about what could have been for that team if they were not impeded, if they were not manipulated, against. And I love this approach because we need a fair winner. You know what I'm saying? And not saying no one's not winning fair, but I'm just saying, like, we need it vetted, right? All the way through. And then, I have no problem with this. But yeah, man, this is cool. This is cool. I love that they're taking this approach. And yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this thing plays out. And it would be cool if they do some type of transitionary, piece. Like you said, Sean, that'd be dope.
Yeah, I think that'd be the cool thing for them to get back to, is to have, because that's, as you said, like, Taken King is still one of my favorites for sure, is because of Oryx, Regicide, the lore, the whole connection from Crota all the way through to your floating hive god off into space, who's by scale to you massive. So it's like when you get all of that connected, and then Last Wish, again, these massive bosses. Now that's the weird thing for me, is like, what are we gonna fight? Because that's my worry, is like, I'm with you guys when you talked about Zal earlier. I'm worried Aramis is gonna be Zal. Aramis, like the Darkness Queen stuff, or Kel, and she's got that. She's the one we're gonna face in this like campaign on the top of a tower. And then I have no idea how it's going to connect, but it's like, it's always, as you've said, Cognito, for lore, and you even said it to when you've talked to anybody at Bungie, it's like, when the lore of the story ties into the raid and it connects to the world, that's when some of this stuff is the best. And that's, as you said, Travis, if they can use this delay, it's a little farther out, then it kickstarts something else in the world. That's where I think it could really come together.
Yeah, that's Destiny at its best.
Yeah, you're right. The taking, now that I think about it, I guess I've never thought of it that way, but the only raid that really directly, I think everybody knew how it tied into the campaign, was the Taken King, because Vault of Glass is sort of like an afterthought. Like, the Vex turn out to be kind of the final boss of the game, but Vault of Glass is sort of just like a separate thing. Wrath of the Machines, really, I still don't really even know what that was about.
That hurt me, because Wrath of the Machine, that boss deserved better. Was the Axis? Axis deserved, he was an amazing encounter, and he deserved a better lore for how amazing that thing was. But continue.
Yeah. It would have been great if he was somehow the face of the evil in that campaign, but the campaign didn't have a face of evil because it was about 3 missions long and about 25 minutes worth of content. But yeah, I hate that campaign. Sorry.
Get him.
It's not very good. But yeah, I think that's the problem here, right? Is I think you're right. We're going to be fighting because we know it's in a separate location, the raid, right? So it's probably going to be completely disconnected. And it was the same thing with Gaul. Why couldn't Gaul have been, at the very least, lasted until the raid? But instead he died. And then who the heck is this Callus guy? Like, why is he showing up?
One adventure talks about Callus.
Yeah. An adventure talks about him. And if you haven't read the Grimoire, you have no idea what's going on. I'm sure most people who've played the raid still don't know like how Callus fits into the picture.
Same with
they might even think that he is Gaul. I have no idea, you know?
Facts. Facts. Yeah. I felt Val Hor was mishandled. It's Spire of Stars and he knows the jokes I have for the raid layers. Clean
apartment
Callus's
2B
apartment
and then
in 2B.
the penthouse and
go fit it. Go empty his garage and eat it for us. I'm like, we're just doing errands for this man. Like it was really no lore that we had Curse of Osiris, which obviously Osiris, I'm a huge fanboy, crazy warlock lore that I want to know about. That story ends. Panopti's fight was cool, but then it's like it had no narrative connection. Like to Eater of Worlds, like it's just like, oh, Callus is something like, and like you said, when we were at GCX, I definitely went to the raid team group and I was like, look, guys, when you are at your best, Last Wish, Taken King, when you have that narrative buildup, even I will give Leviathan this, I'll finish. I like that when you flew in, right, and you got a little whatever, and the same thing when you flew in the Last Wish, Petra's talking and telling you why you're doing this. Why I think all this is important to build it up narratively. Then when you end it, you also have to make, like you said, Travis, this villain has to be a threat. You just can't just throw a random villain with a name and then we're supposed to have some emotional attachment to why we're killing him. It doesn't. It's not earned. You know what I'm saying? That's my feeling. That's my problem with it. So I just want them to continue with that cadence because I do fear for Aramis that she's gonna be forgotten. Yeah, she's gonna be it is what it is.
Five to 8 missions against Fallen, maybe going back to the Cosmodrome for 1 or 2. Finish up on Europa, fight her at the top of a tower. Then other stuff happens. I'm like, they don't connect, and that's whereas like again these separate stories. Somebody said like Panoptes for Curse of Osiris.
Yes, for Kado's on it.
I love the look of that guy, and the whole that intro mission where they show all the different realities.
Yes,
and you see, he's like his plan, like this is what he's trying to do. I thought that was really cool. The entire rest of the campaign is really bad, but like that whole premise could have been really good if they would have doubled down on it. So.
And one of the few bosses where actually the NPC Osiris fought with you for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see more of that. Like they've got so much they can do.
Even the Last Wish, good raid, but like most people aren't going to know who Riven is. It wasn't like we were fighting Uldren Sov in that raid. Right. Like I still think that they could have done a better job of the narrative threads there, and it's kind of the story of Destiny, limitless storytelling potential that more often than not goes unused.
Right.
Well, I think that's a pretty damn good place to end it. Outside of it was like we got emblems to earn for first 24 hours and all that stuff. The emblems, do you guys fancy either the purple or the red one? Either of those. I know you want the day one. You're gonna have to get it. It's for your job. You're required, sir. You're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
But other than that, you'll be able to get your raid jacket. Be curious what that one looks like.
Yes.
Do you have any raid jackets, or is it just suits only? It doesn't count.
No, I think I've unlocked them, but I've never paid for them. Because you still have to pay like $60, right? So I just
they were like it was like 140. They were not cheap.
Oh yeah,
I got my Guardian Salvation.
That would be something I would frame and put on the wall behind me. I'm not actually going to wear it. So
well, hey, if you do this one and get that, you might have to do this one just to add it to the wall
to flex.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I was never expecting on this being a recording studio. Strange times we live in.
Yeah, you got to put the stranger statue back there. Now you got the drifter statue I saw just came out. Like you got stuff to add back there.
We got to say before we end, we do have to say goodbye to a favorite Guardian.
Seriously, this is.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Cannot end this show.
No, that's.
But I'm saying goodbye to one of the greatest community managers of all time. I've been around a lot, and Deej, man, it hit me when you sent me that text. I couldn't believe it because I was just worried about the lore stuff. He's like, you didn't get to the end. I'm like, oh, I gotta catch up. I didn't know, and man, yeah, this I want to let you guys go. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you processing the legendary Deej moving on?
I was like, I'll give the guest honors because you're the guest, man.
Yeah, well, Deej is a friend of mine. I've spent a lot of time with him. He's a really good guy. He's charismatic. He's funny. He is friendly to anyone and will find ways to like build connections with you. And he built a hell of a team. Obviously that's kind of sad in its own right. Anybody moving on, but more than that, I think the way that this affects the Destiny community is, I think Destiny and Bungie in general, but especially Destiny, since that's what they've been doing these past 6 years. They're the gold standard for community management. I really think that they have one of the hardest games to manage, which is a huge game from a major studio that's got lots of expectations. They make a game that lots of people really love and have tons of opinions about. And more often than not, they've been really communicative, really responsive, and they always feel like they're being respectful to their community. And on Twitter, they're on Reddit, in the Destiny the Game Reddit, like commenting. They even hired somebody from the Destiny the Game Reddit. Yeah. That's where Cosmo came from. So they really have kind of, I think, set the bar. And so obviously when you look at the guy who built that leaving, it's sad, but I mean, he could not be leaving it in better hands. That much is clear. And I don't know if I'll ever see him again because he's moving on. And I, it's a pandemic. I'm not going anywhere right now, but I won't be able to see him in person more often than not. But Deej, if you ever see this, you're awesome. And always had great memories with you. Thanks for welcoming me and lots of other people into Bungie HQ, and even more people, the streams that you did and all that. So we will miss you. We will not miss you talking about Suros regime a lot. No one is going to miss that. That gun is not good.
Salute, man. Yeah.
The end.
You got some words before I get into my Deej?
It was hard to follow Travis, and I know you're going to go, but it was like, for watching what he always did, whether it be his talent in E3s and not answering questions, his dramatic readings on the Twitch streams, when you meet him in person for the first time, if he had the time, he would share a beer with every single person, whether he drinks or not, but it was like, he would do that with every single person if time allowed. Like, he is... got a chance. We got like 3 seconds with him at Guardian Con. Ultra nice. I mean, could not be like a nicer guy. And to see, like, as you said, plucked Cosmo from Reddit, Dylan up there. Now he's got Nicole. So he's taken this time to build a team, set the standard. And I mean, I don't know how Bungie did a few special things with Destiny from the start. One was, they combined options of like a shooter, an MMO, tried to make it this weird mesh that shouldn't have worked, and somehow Vault of Glass was the cherry on top that gave it the extra spring of life that it needed. But the other thing is they made a community that has been more supportive, more helpful. The things that have come out of this community, for the fact that it, like, I don't know of another game that has a community like this. It does not exist.
Preach.
He is one of the people who made that happen. Like, the way he talked about it, the way he would be out there, his twabs that you would read, all of the pieces that he did were integral in making this game have the community that it does. And without him, it's one of those pieces, like, it may not even be the same experience. He, like, not saying there's like 800 people in the studio that didn't make the game, but he is one of those like rare gems that set this community and the experience we got throughout it apart. So it was like, again, Deej, if you ever see this as well, I got to meet you for about 5 seconds, but I will say thank you from so much of the community for doing what you did in a way that possibly only you could have done.
Yeah,
the end.
Well said, brother. Well said. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. The other thing, I hadn't even thought about this. I don't know if you guys know this, but Deej himself also came from the community. Like, he was on the Bungie forums, and that's where they found him. So it's kind of funny that he kind of then hired out of the community, and there's a nice symmetry to it. But yeah, he's good, and we'll miss him.
Yeah, I mean, well, you guys said so much, man. He for me, as you know, what my history is became a person who was a hater of the game when I didn't know about the end game, to the staunch defender. That how dare you slander, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, the hardest thing, the bittersweet for me is when a new stream is going to come out and he's not going to be there, because to look forward to the new X-Men, he's such a showman and he's such a presenter, and he does a good job of not only serving the base, he does a good job of protecting the Bungie employees, you know what I'm saying? And like he say, he's so slick with the words. He'll give you enough, but not just enough to protect the team. And like, he's so good with that. Like, he is a tactician, is a wordsmith with that type of professionalism of PR. Like, the man is amazing. So salute to him. And I remember, like I said, I met him a few times, and each time was pleasant. And, you know, I always told him, I said, look, man, I said, off record, I said, you can tell us Destiny fans, we awful sometimes. You got like we are the most demanding base. All you gotta do is this, bungo this. Like, we're bad sometimes. Like, I'm guilty of it. We get emotional. We love the game, and when things don't work, and he said, "No, bro, I love it," because he said, we have to serve the community. We need that feedback. You know what I'm saying? And he's just excellent, man. He's just excellent. Professional. I wish him the best at, wherever his next journey may take him. Whoever's getting him, you guys gonna get a winner. Whoever it is, wherever he's going, you getting a winner. Like this guy, and again, he for me, he was the face of Destiny during those dark times when I would tune in to these streams and you read those TWABs. He knows, like, when we started, Flashpoint / Last Word, like, we would tune into these TWABs feverishly just for hope. Okay, they're doing this, they're building that. And you look for that Deej out. You're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that brought you joy when the game wasn't doing good. Because they were working, they were listening. And yeah, man, it's cool to see everyone in the community kind of rally up and celebrate him. So I thought that was dope. And we wish him the best. So again, Deej, if you're hearing it, it's one of my favorite Warlock. Oh, he repped that Warlock class so well. Oh, yeah. So well. He made it his business to put that Warlock
every out there. Place he could.
Oh, I love it.
Actually, you guys talking about him is reminding me of so many good memories I have with him. Bro. I remember, the Sparrow Racing League, when they were showing that off at E3. He just let me stay in the room and like Sparrow race with him for a really long time. I think he was happy it was the one competitive mode he could beat me at. So we played that. And then I remember I think my best memory with him is we were walking around the Bungie office and he was giving some other people who'd never been there before a tour. And I was just kind of like hanging out. And I remember for part of the tour, he walked by this room that was supposed to be closed. And behind the door, you could just see these big monitors, and they said Destiny 2 on it. And this was before Destiny 2 had even been announced. And he just looked at the people, all of us journalists, we'd all seen it. And then he looked at the monitor, and then he looked at us all like this, like with our mouths open. And then he just goes, "You knew it was coming." And he just carried on with he just kept walking.
He's a master showman. And the last thing funny little memories. I remember, like, just he would do fun things during the stream too. Like, it was just like the way he present. Like, I remember he made like fashion a thing. He was like, okay, now here's the Warlock and the Hunter with their ensemble wearing the Future War Cult gear. He would just do funny things to present the game in such a cool way that you had to laugh. We all know about the memes. We know about the smoking jacket. He's a showman, man. Like I said, whoever gets him, one of the best community managers I've ever seen, and salute to him, man. A lot of fun memories. He will definitely be missed.
Well, that, I think, is where we have to wrap the show up. And the proper place to do it, too. Man, Travis, it has been an absolute blast having you. I'm sorry we kept you so long. It has been an absolute pleasure. The floor is yours. If you got anything cool cooking, obviously we know you got the review, but stuff you got working, if you got anything planned, any cool projects, I mean, floor is yours. Yeah. Anybody who listens, hears, or otherwise, tell them about you. Tell them to go watch Star Wars one more time, whatever you got.
Yeah, go ahead. Please watch the McClunky scene from Star Wars and think of me and not of anything else. No, but I'm going to be on the Destiny show next week. I'm on Fireteam Chat every week, which we record and release on Fridays at 5 p.m. And then you can check out my review of Genshin Impact on IGN.com. And then on November 22nd, hopefully, you will see my review for Destiny 2 Beyond Light.
Nice.
Absolutely,
man. Such a pleasure.
That's plenty to do between now and then.
Absolutely, man. Such a pleasure to have you here, man. Could have talked to you for hours, man. You're fantastic. The jokes.
Same here. I feel like we get along. I could hang out with you guys for the rest of the evening.
Dude, awesome.
There's somebody behind a camera or a door over there who probably wants you back.
Absolutely. She's actually sitting right over here, and she's waiting to play Destiny with me.
Salute.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's a winner. That's a keeper right
there. Thank her
Wow.
for us, by the way.
Yes.
Please.
I will.
Yeah, salute that, man. Again, if you're not following Trav, please follow him. You know what I'm saying, on Twitter. And again, Fireteam Chat. Always does a fantastic job. Welcomed me with open arms. Made me feel at home. My first time on the stage. So salute to you, man. I had a lot of fun and Destin and the whole team, man. Love what you guys do. And definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, for me, you already know. At LordCognito on Twitter.
Iron Lords podcast. Every Sunday is the Lord's Day. This week, we will have the Wandering Dutch. So up and coming content creator. You got to do sit-ups? Did they? Wait, someone put it in the chat?
It was a long time ago, but it's there.
He's got to do. This is the best part of the show right now. So right now, who was the one that I missed that? So he's got to do sit-ups, y'all. Yes. So
what is happening?
All right.
I'm
So what happens?
confused.
We here at The Last Word during the pandemic, we really promote fitness. As you can see, Ebontis is a fitness connoisseur and he serves his community well. So the chat asked for it, they demanded it, and we're getting this perfect form. So look at the knee, the elbows meeting the knees, the perfect form. McClucky's like, what is happening? This is fitness at The Last Word, y'all. And this is what we do here. We're getting in shape. We're pandemic out. We're stage 4 or 5 of the pandemic. We almost at the gym, but we got to keep this. We got to promote this here at The Last Word. E is the champion, the spokesperson for fitness. And thanks to the chat. Who put it in the chat? I missed it. Who put it in the chat? E, I missed it.
That was redeemed at like the top of the show, so I gotta give it to New Red. You're welcome,
salute.
sir.
Now, no more now. Come on now. It's the end of the show. Now. New Red, like, can we get a second episode? You get a dab. Relax. But man, just put in some hard work right now. So that's what you get here. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it tight. Everybody get out there. Fitness is important, man, during the COVID. Don't let the COVID belly get you, man. He's out here. He's moving. He's moving and grooving for you right now. So that's what we got. So he's like, what is happening?
I have no idea what's happening, and also very support this worthy cause. Sign my name to it.
Yes. We gotta give my man that sponsor right now, man. He's killing it out here. This boy promotes fitness. Love it. But salute to him. As I was saying, I have a podcast on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we'll have Wandering Dutch on, one of the awesome guys in the community from the Mixed Up podcast. We'll be talking about next-gen stuff. We'll be talking about the PlayStation 5 UI. We'll be talking about Phil Spencer's comments on the Bethesda acquisition. A lot of stuff going on. 900p games on the Series S. We got to talk about it. So there's going to be a lot of stuff there. Please check us out. And again, I can't thank enough everyone for the support. LordsofGaming.net, man. It's really been flourishing. Thanks to you guys sharing the articles. It's been so cool to see. So support our guys there. And yeah, man, that last word. You know how we do, man. One of the best podcasts you never heard yet. You heard it here now, but most people didn't beforehand. Thanks to Travis. So salute to everybody new that's coming in to support. The chat's been amazing. Really appreciate the growth, and we'd love to see, the support. So thank you guys very much. And E, what's going on with you, sir?
No, I'm just kidding. No, honestly, Travis, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. As I think I probably am in the same place as you. He's like, we could probably talk for another couple hours, whether we brought up like,
easy.
I didn't even get to like mess with you about your Fast and Furious knowledge. I gotta I was like,
I know.
I was like,
touch that.
I saw that, but I was like, we moved so far beyond that topic, I couldn't even get there. I was like, I've seen them all too, but it sounds like you would be a hilarious person to talk about that stuff with. But no, man, you are absolutely welcome on here anytime. If you're like, I got a little freedom on a Friday, you are absolutely welcome. It has been a pleasure. For me, I am trying to orchestrate my chaotic week of November for my stuff as well. So for me, of course, it's going to be, Destiny on the 10th. And then I'm really trying to decide between Demon Souls, potentially Godfall, all of that stuff that's coming out. And then, of course, Cyberpunk. I got lucky enough to be an ambassador for Outriders, so I'm still working on orchestrating that one. So a lot of stuff coming. Yeah, November through who knows when. I'm probably not going to get much more sleep if I can help it as well. So stay tuned to the channel. It's Ebontis everywhere, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. If you see the cheetah and that name, you've probably found me. So thank you very much for episode 124. Chat, you guys have been amazing. Hang tight. I'm going to go raid another Destiny stream, of course, when we're done. So we got to do that. But for this episode 124, October 16th, I think we'll wrap it here. So it has been
The Last
Word.